You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop-up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you. See you, see you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Nice work you did. You're gonna go fucking with 1,000 eyes in a good disguise. Hit 'em right between the eyes. Hit 'em right between the eyes. When you walk away, nothing more to say. See the lightning in your eyes. See 'em running for their lives. Strolling out of line and drifting closer in your sight. So play it out, I'm wide awake. It's a scene about me. There's something in your way, and now someone is gonna pay. And if you can't get what you want, well, it's all because of me. Now dance, fucker, dance, man, I never had a chance.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Otherwise known as Chat Lives Matter Night, right here live on KLRN Radio. It is not our normal lineup, though, and you can blame the GOP because they're the ones that keep deciding they're going to do debates on Wednesdays for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, since most of their base is probably at church tonight, but, you know, I guess that's why they have DVRs. Anyway, so this one will be brought to us by NBC News, and I guess Hewitt will be present to help give things more of a conservative feel. So this is the opening act. I'm Rick Robinson. I'm the programming director on here. Also host of the Rick Robinson Show, which is our morning show here on KLRN Radio. Host of the America Off the Rails Show. Co-host of the Jen and Rick Show. Co-host of the Rick and Orty Show. Co-host of the Juxtaposition Show. I'm just going to stop naming things now because there's only there's like 2 or 3 shows that I'm not directly involved in some way. Not because I'm trying to toot my own horn, but because it takes a lot of hard work to build something like this, and I'm, always wanted to be the one to put in the work to make it happen. So, before we get into Go Away Baitin' Volume 3, there's something that I really, really kind of need to talk about, because it kind of pissed me off today. This is not where I was planning on going with the opening few minutes of the show, but we're going to do it anyway. So there's a story that has now come out that apparently there were freelancers and folks affiliated with New York Times, CNN, Reuters, and AP embedded in the October 7th terrorist attacks in Israel, meaning they were actually with the terrorists as they were crossing the border and started murdering people. I've had it. From the looks of the names and from some of the things that I've seen, I'm pretty sure these people were already part of Hamas to begin with. But that's beside the point. Those pictures never should have been purchased by AP, Reuters, or anyone else because of what it took to get them. And this is why, and I'm announcing this officially for the first time in January, probably mid-January, I will be launching a news organization. We have not quite landed on a name yet, and I'm not announcing the name until I purchase the domain to go along with the name. But there will be a news organization that will be putting out, one, to start figuring out ways to do the news breaks here on KLRN Radio when we have top of the hour, bottom of the hour stuff, and 2, because there are too few news sources that I myself trust anymore. And we're going to do our best to try to do things as middle of the road as possible, even if it never makes us a dime, because I just want somebody who's willing to put out the information without the slant. And everybody that says they're going to do that eventually stops doing it. Now, I am primarily a commentator, so I will still be doing things like this over here on KLRN Radio. The news section, while it will be affiliated with KLRN Radio, will be separate from KLRN Radio. So the rules over there will be different. We won't really be doing very much opinion stuff unless or until we put out an opinion section on the website. We're going to try to do things as stylistically neutral as possible. Now, that's nearly impossible, and everybody knows that because news has slants, even when they try to tell you that it doesn't. But we're going to get that stuff done, and again, probably launching sometime in mid-January. Because it's going to take me a few months to get it all sorted out. But it's because I'm tired of every time I turn around, there's a news organization that is basically promoting evil as if it is good, and I'm tired of dealing with it. So that's point number 1. Point number 2. Republicans, and I say that because I'm technically not one, need to learn the game of incrementalism when it comes to politics again, because we've stopped doing that, and I don't understand why. We don't take the wins when we can get them. We don't move the needle in the right direction. Whether it's by inches, yards, or miles is irrelevant to a point, because if you can't move the needle at all, you're not going to impact the change that you want. And we've gotten to the point now where it's an all or nothing zero-sum game on everything, and it's stupid. And I've said this over and over and over again. Incrementally moving the needle is not abandoning your principles. It's making sure that your principles can be the ones that people start adhering to. The left has been playing this game since the 60s. And they excel at it. I talked about this morning on the Rick Robinson Show. They have now, because thanks to Jimmy Carter, who is either a failed president or an evil genius, you take your pick, and the creation of the national education crap, the Department of Education, they have managed to basically take control of our education system. And over the last, starting in 1980, so we're talking what, 43 years ago-ish, if I'm doing the math right? Trying to think, yeah, because that would put, because I'm 50, so yeah, it'd be about 43. So starting about 43 years ago, they started incrementally moving the needle where education became less about teaching people how to do things and how to function and how to be an adult and critical thinking, and more about indoctrination. And if you wanted to know what they were working towards, just look at last night. Generation Z is starting to hit voting age. And they are coming out in droves to vote like no other generation before them. And these people, en masse, hate America, hate capitalism, and a good portion of them feel the world would be better if the USSR still existed. These are the people that are starting to move the needle again in the wrong direction, because we haven't been playing the long game. And I don't understand why we haven't been. Look, people think we're monsters because we don't want babies murdered. So let's find common ground with them and explain, look, we admit that sometimes it in your opinion, it needs to happen. So let's find common ground so we can figure out where that's going to be and get that benchmark set to take it off the table. Because, ladies and gentlemen, here's the thing that last night should have taught us. One, Rona McRomney, and I'm not going to call her anything else ever, is trash. This is now her third consecutive election loss while she's been at the reins of the GOP. And that is unacceptable to me. Two, she keeps blaming everyone else. Three, the only point that everybody seems to get right is we have no clear messaging when it comes to abortion other than don't kill babies. Look, I get that. No, nobody that is a conservative wants to see babies killed. We just don't. But we have to understand that we don't live in the same world that we lived in 40, 50 years ago. We just don't. These people don't care. It's not about the same things that you and I were brought up to believe in, because they have been told everything that we hold dear is a lie. Everything that we hold dear was created by evil people, and communism is the answer, capitalism is murder, and colonialism is everywhere, and they have to stop it. That's why nobody talks about the heroism of our founding fathers anymore, because they're colonists. Nobody talks about the heroes of Israel anymore, because they're colonists and they're colonizers. Because they've been winning the argument since 1980. They won the argument officially in 1979 when Carter passed the act that separated the Department of Health and the Department of Education, and created two completely separate entities, because that made it a lot easier for them to, now we can create all kinds of new positions, and we can do this, and we can do that. And I don't mean positions in the fun way. Just saying.
Giggity giggity, giggity goo. Stick around.
Sorry, had to be done. Because, tonight's going to be a bunch of serious stuff for the most part. Unfortunately, I was honestly expecting things to go much differently than they did last night. Again, though, after drilling into a lot of the results, we had a lot of the same stuff that happened in 2022 happen in 2023. There were a lot of local level elections that went much differently than everybody was expecting. The state level elections, again, went much differently than a lot of people were expecting and were contrary to polls. And of course, Joe Biden has come out today, and taken credit for it all, even though even the one governor who basically, as a Democrat, got reelected said Joe Biden had nothing to do with my victory and nothing to do with my policies. But of course, he's going to be able to take the victory because he's the head of their party right now. And if we'd have been able to hand him his ass last night, then we would be laying that albatross around his neck. So he deserves to take a victory lap, even if he is having to do so on a hover round. He's earned it. Is it dumb that he's earned it? Yeah, just about as dumb as us liking to running every failure around his neck, but it doesn't stop us from doing it. Alright, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to start adding people into the discussion here in about 15 or so. Might actually see if somebody wants to come in a little bit earlier. Kind of thought I would be more ranty than I am, but I guess since I did 2 hours earlier today, I don't have as much to rant about. So, yeah, let's take a quick break. Come back, get things set up, and I'll start seeing who all wants to come on and when while we're on the break. You know what? Let's just go back over here. I like this one. We're going to go with this one. Assuming it plays again. Alright. Here we go. Alright, we'll be right back. You're listening to Go Away Baitin' Volume 3 right here live on KLRN Radio. Again, blame the GOP that you're not getting your usual Chat Lives Matter stuff. It's not our fault, man. We're just doing our jobs. I'll be right back.
Designed this rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock takes life away. It's so unreal. Didn't look out below. Watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on to didn't even know I wasted it all just to watch you go. I kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to be will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard and got so far. But in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to fall to lose it all.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, and drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
That in mind, I designed this rhyme to remind myself how I tried so hard. In spite of the way you were mocking me, acting like I was part of your property. Remembering all the times you fought with me, I'm surprised it got so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me in the end.
Unfortunately, after last night's election year results, this song feels more fitting than ever. Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is our extended debate night coverage under Poli-Sci 11 million MK, and I am joined by our first panelist of the evening. You may recognize her as the co-host of both the Cocktail Lounge and He Said, She Said, and also the resident bar babe on Toxic Masculinity once a month. The one, the only, the adorable and slightly dangerous Aggie Regan. Good evening, ma'am. How are you?
That's a hell of an intro. Wow, I should have recorded that. Oh wait, it is recording.
I was gonna say,
okay.
It's already recorded. I can grab it for you later.
I'm doing okay. Had a bit of a mishap today with house stuff. Discovered a pipe leak and had to have the plumber come out. But other than that, smooth sailing around here. The weather is turning nice. The leaves are turning color, and they're. Of course, the trees are all shedding everywhere, which means I'm constantly having to pick up leaves and stuff. But other than that,
yeah,
the play was great.
Yeah. My trees keep going from, hey, let's drop all our needles to, holy crap, it's 80 degrees, let's have an orgy. So yeah, it's been fun around here. So.
That's what it is right here. Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana and Arkansas. We all share the same thing. We have that period that is hotter than hell after summer, and then we have that brief cold front freeze type of weather for about a week. And it confuses the hell out of the trees because it gets warm again. It's like, oh wait, I thought I was supposed to be shedding. No, let's bud. Let's pollinate everything.
Andrew's in the chat. He'll be joining us here in just a few minutes. Aggie had the people today. Everybody should probably take a drink.
Yes, I had the people. I was not a happy camper.
Am I the only one that post-pandemic, I'm not, I don't people as well as I used to? Is that just me, or is that everybody? Because I've noticed I don't people as well as I used to.
I've actually gotten better at it. I mean, I used to be in the service industry. I used to be a manager of retail sales. I did Disney. Oh my God, that'll definitely force you to be a people person. But after COVID, when we were all sequestered and
wait, you did Disney or you worked for Disney? Because there is a slight difference there. Okay, just
worked.
So
no.
So you
I wasn't going to go into the whole cryo stuff. No.
So you worked it with Disney. Okay, got it.
But when people started coming back out and everything, I noticed that a lot of kids, were still afraid. And so I kind of went out of my way to actually be more forward and try to break that fear, to let them, and I had one little girl, she was bagging my groceries one day and she's wearing a mask and everything. And the mask mandate had been lifted for months, and everything. And I asked her, is there a reason why you're still wearing the mask? And she was like, well, protection, against COVID and all that stuff. And I looked at her and I said, you realize flu is COVID, right? I mean, I just said it matter-of-factly like that. And she was like, what do you mean? I said, well, the common cold, the flu, those are all COVID viruses. Those are coronaviruses. And it was like she had been slapped in the face. She had been under the impression that COVID was a virus that was novel, that had never been done before, that, that kind of thing, that she had to protect herself from at all costs. And I was like, no, it's better if you just go ahead and get it than if you avoid it, And she's still, I still see her at the grocery store, and she's fine. She doesn't wear her mask or anything, and she's a lot happier. But it just, for me, after COVID, it was like, I felt a need to like retrain people to actually interact like people again, because they had forgotten how. It was weird. Well, but I don't like to people much.
I mean, to be honest, COVID-19 was kind of novel because it was, partially human engineered, so that was kind of novel. Just saying.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Anyway, the community notes meme is starting to make the rounds.
Yeah. I asked Mike to actually do a blank template. Just because I wanted to say, read the fucking link before you comment. So many people don't.
Yeah.
They will comment, and it's like, we need a community notes on that. The link is provided.
Yeah,
there. Just read it.
Well, I mean, so that goes to yet another reason why I made the announcement that sometime mid-January I will be launching a news organization and tying it with KLR Radio, even though it'll be kind of separate from it, because we do more political commentary over here, so I do want things to be separate. It's one of the things that kind of drives me nuts about the Blaze is they try to present themselves as a legitimate news source, and then half their stuff is opinion, and I'm like, So that's why it's gonna cost more, but I'm gonna do it separately, because I want that, basically that firewall. We will probably have contributors over there too, but unless it's in the opinion section, because there will be one specifically for opinion, then it's going to be as middle of the road as we can get it, and as sorted and cited as we can get it, because I am tired of seeing stories like the one that we all saw today.
Yeah, that was... A lot of people are shaken up by that. I will say it that way.
I mean, I'm just sitting here looking at, you start seeing names like AP and Reuters being dropped. Those are like the end-all and be-all of news services, and they're...
Yeah, we grew up, UPI and AP were the two that we grew up with, right?
Yeah, I don't know what
growing up,
happened to the
those were the ones that you always saw.
Yeah, I mean, AP's still around. I haven't heard much from the other one, but, Reuters kind of usurped them a bit as far as the other one.
Yeah, they took over.
But yeah, I mean, when I found out that they're buying freelance photos from embedded terrorists pretending to be journalists, and let's not mince words about it. That's probably pretty much exactly what they were.
They have to be. To be inside a group like Hamas or Hezbollah or ISIL or whatever you want to call it, whichever terrorist group you pick, you have to have a very high level of trust.
I have a more universal name for all of them. Goat Fuckers Anonymous.
That works. But you have to have a very high level of trust. And so, when, these photos were coming out, I'm going, well, the terrorists themselves are taking it. And I wasn't far off. They have to be members of the organization in order to have that access. And so that story started circulating.
I started looking at the names tied to the sources right about the same time you're saying they were probably part of Hamas. And I'm like looking at the names going, yeah, probably.
Yeah, the names are dead giveaways for me, And I was like, it wasn't like, John Phillips was one of them, So for me, it was like, this is not surprising. And people were like, we need to verify this. We need to verify this. And I said, you actually don't need to verify it if you are familiar with the way organizations like Hamas works. So I'm pretty sure that that's the only way it could have happened. There's no way. So to me, you can't hate the media enough. You just can't. There's always room for more hate towards the media.
Yeah. If you've ever gotten to the point where you're like, I think I may finally hate the media enough, they say, hold my beer, and then you find out you're nowhere near close.
Exactly.
Just say it. Because that's kind of how I felt today, and that's why I was like, you know what? I have toyed with the idea of starting a legit news side to all of this for like almost as long as I've been doing this. And now's the time. I'm not gonna keep listening to the crazy anymore. All right, we need to take a quick break because I gotta step out for just a second and get Andrew added to the call because he was wanting to come on right about now. And I had a song ready and now I can't find it. This one will work. It's still kind of fitting, tying into what we're going to be discussing tonight. And what we have been discussing already. So you are listening to KLR Radio. We are on our debate coverage. Oops, that's really loud, sorry. For 2023, round 3. Go Away Baitin, volume 3. I'm Rick Robinson, Cheese Aggie Rican. More panelists joining us as we come back from the break. Stay tuned.
The subliminal mindfuck America. Welcome to a new kind of tension all across the alien nation. Everything isn't meant to be okay. Television dreams of tomorrow. We're not the ones who meant to follow.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq, Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, pop-up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
I know karate, I know jiu-jitsu, I drive like a gangster when I'm coming to see you, see you, see you, see you.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Okay, so I know everybody talks trash about Green Day. That song was written in, I believe, 2001, 2002, and was pretty much prophetic. I'm just saying. Anyway, welcome back. It is almost debate time. Just checked. We have about 20 minutes until the festivities kick off. And if you are not following along on Twitter, you should be, because that's where our drinking bingo debate words are posted. We should probably drop those in the chat if we haven't yet.
I'll get it right now, Rick.
Just so everybody can kind of follow along and be as drunk as the rest of us by the time this is all over. Because, good Lord, you weren't kidding. It's a good thing I bought... this time I was smart. I bought cheaper booze. So, I'm going to drink slightly less, and it's less expensive, so hopefully it doesn't kill me. Hopefully. But we shall see.
We will have to make an announcement probably after every break that KRN Radio is not responsible for any kidney, liver damage, or poor life choices made the next day after the completion of the debate.
Well, actually, since you just said that, so we'll just have you do it as we come back from every break. Just saying.
We just did.
Well, yeah. I mean, well, honestly, we probably once we get the main debate started, we won't really be taking breaks unless they do. So, hopefully, we won't have to do that too many times. This is just more of making sure that people that want to join in are able to join in without it sounding like a bunch of weirdness. Because that doesn't always work well when we do it when everybody can hear.
Well, I'm on here, so weirdness is standard.
Well, that's true. Oh, yeah.
And the link to the first part of the list is in chat.
Woohoo! Thank you, sir.
Drink.
Drink.
I'm surprised nobody put the word list on there, just so anytime we said it, somebody had to drink. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I thought about just putting drink on it, but it's like, oh. Every time one of the hosts says drink, you drink.
Well, there's always so many things that you kind of wish you would have put on after the fact, like that year that, you know, and I don't remember if it was during a debate or a speech or something, but Marco Rubio got lambasted for needing to drink water, and it's all the Democrats could talk about for like 2 hours afterwards. And I'm like, dude, I'm really glad that that wasn't a word that anybody put on there was water, because I couldn't run the board if so.
Oh, I remember that. It was just like,
I remember
really?
he just looked awkward because he was looking at the camera and reaching for the bottle and kind of drinking from the bottle while still looking at the camera. And that was kind of like creepy.
Well, I mean, first of all, and this is just me, everyday average American. Unless you're being stupid and trying to take a drink of something while you're driving your car, who the fuck does that with their eyes open?
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Because I don't know about y'all, but when I start taking a drink, normally the first thing I do is usually close my eyes. That's why I always kind of internally laugh when Brad's closing is always take a drink and then look at the ceiling. I'm like, who's looking at the ceiling? My eyes would be closed. But, what do I know?
I drink with my eyes open.
That's because you drink like a fish.
Okay. It's the only
His
way
point is still valid.
Oh, I didn't say his point wasn't valid. I'm just saying that's the explanation. When you drink like a fish, your eyes are always open. Because, so are theirs when they drink, because they drink constantly. Just saying.
True.
And just remember, though, they're swimming in other fish's pee.
So, this reminds me of the first time my granddad ever told me an off-color joke, and I think I was probably 10 or 11 when he did it. We were at the lake, and we were fishing, and I reached into the ice chest and grabbed, because, back then they didn't have bottled water and all that shit, so he would, he would fill up jugs, like gallon jugs, 2 liters, things like that, and just have a huge ice chest with water in there. So I reached down, grabbed one of the 2 liters, opened it up, and of course, it's my granddad, so there were no glasses, so the rule is you have to drink from the bottle without letting it touch your lips, so nobody else has to get your germs. So I'm sitting there just kind of letting the water fall in my mouth, and I got my ass spanked by my grandfather for the first and only time that I can remember, all because he chose to tell me a joke while I was drinking, and I dropped the water bottle. And the joke was, you really shouldn't be drinking that because water's bad for you. So I stopped drinking for a second and asked why, and then go back to drinking, because fish fucking it. I'm 11 years old, laughing my ass off, dropped the water bottle, and I legit got spanked by my grandfather for wasting water.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
That just reminds me of that video that ran around on Twitter. I still see it every now and then. Your mom, that's why she tastes like Tic Tacs.
That's why her breath smells so good.
Yeah. I actually on one of those pictures that was popping around with the you've got 5 minutes to talk to me, what do you say? And I used the whole Jim Carrey line. Somebody on the comment made some sort of comment about their junk being small, and I was like, no, say this instead. I'm hung like a Tic Tac. Want to freshen up?
Oh my Lord. So not right.
Aggie's like, every time I come on, I don't never know what I'm getting into. Every time.
Happens every time. And still, I volunteered.
And what's the common denominator here?
It's not always
my stupidity.
I was gonna say it's not always you. Hey Aggie, don't forget you have to answer this one.
Hey, where are the white women at?
Not here.
Well, no, Rick. See, the common denominator is Aggie.
God, this is going to stop so fast.
We have pills for that.
And the booze hasn't even started flowing yet.
Aggie, if it went south that fast, we have pills for that. Just saying.
No. No more.
Hey, did y'all see that? Did you see that tweet that came through about Bruce? His wife?
Oh, his husband, yeah. That poor guy. And then Bruce had the nerve to say that. I was like, oh, you have some nerve to write this after the shit you put this man through.
Oh no, it was funny because I saw yours after I said something very similar. I was like, really, really, and then put a you shut it gif underneath. And then I scrolled up and saw yours, and I'm like, oh, that was like a minute before mine. Oh, forgot to silence my phone while on air, and that's not anybody I need to talk to, so we can do that now.
All I know is there was definitely a run on. What's that medicine again? Let me look that up.
Oh, Fun times, fun times.
Well, I remember when Viagra first came out in the commercials. If you have an erection that lasts 4 hours or longer, call a doctor. Yeah, that ain't happening.
Hell no, I'm calling everybody in the phone book. That's what...
So
my dad got a sample of Viagra when he went for a checkup with his doctor. This was several years ago. He brings it home. He puts it on the kitchen counter. My mom's in the kitchen cooking or whatever. And she says, "What's that?" My dad says, "Viagra." And she looks at him, "Why'd they give it to you?" "I don't know. Put it with the roses. Maybe it'll make them grow better."
Nice.
And I was peeling potatoes. I was laughing
It almost
so
needed
hard,
stitches.
I sliced my skin off.
Oh. So, speaking of which, Angie wrote about this a couple weeks ago. I'm kind of glad that she did, because I probably would have gotten yelled at for my headline idea. But apparently there's now an off-label use for Viagra. Apparently it helps with Alzheimer's, which means it's good for both heads.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
Yeah, there's the big thing is with Viagra and like Cialis is they keep trying to find other things for it so they can renew the patent and keep the generics out.
Well, I mean, it's too late for Viagra. Viagra already has generics everywhere. We run an ad for $4 generic Viagra all day, every day.
Yeah, but there's some. I'm talking the over-the-counter type.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean, but still. But yeah,
there's some
it's
drugs out there that are still copyrighted decades later. Even like Lamisil is still copyrighted, and I've been waiting for that copyright. I don't know why it keeps being renewed, but
well, I mean, hell, there's new commercials for it now, so I think they found another use for it.
Probably.
I mean, and this isn't on topic, but we still have a few minutes before the official topic starts anyway. That's one of the things that drives me so crazy about the left and the whole we need to bring down drug cost. You know why most other countries can sell their drugs as cheaply as they do? One, half the time you don't really know for sure what's in them. Two, we do almost all of the research and development for pretty much every medication known to man in this country, and it's expensive.
Nobody else pays for it but us.
It's expensive. That's why our shit's so much more expensive. And I mean, it's and everybody. Well, why can't we get medicine from Canada? Why can't we get medicine from Mexico? As much as that used to piss me off, I'm kind of glad we don't now, because they're putting fentanyl in every fucking thing and sending it across the border. We'd all be dead.
Yeah, my dad used to go to Mexico and get his medication. Now he's like, no, that's not happening.
I mean, when I was in my 20s and barely ever had to go to a doctor for anything, after I recovered from all the crap and, started, not having to go in every other week and got to get out of the wheelchair and everything else, I got back to the point where I barely ever went to the doctor. And one of the reasons I was able to do that was because my mother-in-law would make every 6-month trip down to Mexico and bring back all the amoxicillin she could carry. So anytime I started feeling bad, instead of going to the doctor, I just take, 10 days worth of amoxicillin, kick it, and keep on trucking. I miss being able to do that, because I could spend like $100 and get like 6 months worth of amoxicillin.
Yeah, unfortunately, you can't do that anymore.
Not unless you want to play Russian roulette with your amoxicillin. Am I getting antibiotics or fentanyl? Let's take one and find out. No thanks, I'm good. No thanks, I'm good. Oh. But yeah, so fun times. Anyway, so anybody else have any takeaways from the off-election cycle debacle that everybody's like ripping their hair out about today?
Well, you got Laura Loomer and all the Trumpsters screaming that, McRonnie Romney's, it's her fault that we didn't win as many elections, and Virginia.
You mean
lost.
Trump's girl? It's Trump's girl's fault?
Yeah,
Really?
you know, the one that he endorsed.
Yeah, the one he endorsed, and it's just like, really.
I'm telling you,
they really believe.
I'm telling
They
you,
do. They believe that their followers had the memories of a goldfish.
Oh no!
No, you give them too much credit.
Goldfish, believe it or not, actually have a decent memory. It's their attention span that sucks. So they have the memory of a gnat and an attention span of a goldfish.
There you go. Better.
Because I'm just like, and then they're all bragging about how Virginia didn't turn red, and oh look, that'll stop old Youngkin's little presidential plans, and it's like, really, guys?
He wasn't even being
You're
looked
rooting
at until
for
2028.
Democrats to win.
That's what really irks me, is that it's no longer about getting conservative seats. It's about just Trump. Like all the other Republicans have to die in a fire. You know, they're happier if the Democrats win, as long as the Republican doesn't win, as long as, you know, so that Trump can come in and save the day. And I'm like, you're not doing anybody any favors. You're alienating even more people. People that supported Trump are now feeling alienated.
I mean, I've yet to see why I should vote for him.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that too. Admittedly,
it's Trump.
You know, if he gets the nomination,
we don't have a choice.
Pretty much, we don't have a choice. Yeah.
Well, you always have a choice.
Yes, just not a good one.
You know, that's the problem.
Well, I mean,
I'm just that. It's like, basically, you're having me pick somebody. You're putting somebody up there that I personally detest, and I know his policies are going to suck.
Well, I mean, it's not just that. I mean, this is the part that I can't make anybody understand. Yes, Trump accomplished really good things for the first 3 years that he was in office. But for 2 years that he was in office, he had control of everything and still had to do everything that he was able to do through executive order.
Yeah. What happened to canceling Obamacare? Didn't happen.
Well, I mean, so that changed anyway. So I don't know when it changed, but when Obamacare was first passed, it went from repealing Obamacare to repealing and replacing Obamacare. And I am so tired of us thinking that we can win elections if we become Democrat lights, because that's not how we win. I mean, if there's getting to the point where there's nearly no daylight between the two parties, people are just going to pick the one that they know. And that's all I keep hearing is what I mean. And I heard it last night. As soon as all the talking heads started talking about how Youngkin lost the House and wasn't able to flip the Senate, it's because of abortion. It's because he was trying to push a 15-week abortion ban. And then, but if 85% of the country says they will be fine with a 15-week limit on abortion, so that can't possibly be the actual issue. The problem is, after doing some number crunching and stuff last night, I figured out the issue, and nobody wants to talk about it. Gen Z is coming of voting age. Gen Z is the first generation that we have had since the 60s that is openly anti-American, prefers communism to capitalism, and 25% of the 50% of Gen Z that support communism over capitalism also think the world would be better if the USSR still existed.
Yeah.
They are also motivated like no other 18 to 25-year-old voting bloc has ever been. So they are starting to turn out in droves because they want to shape the world in their image that they perceive it should be, and they're using the image that the Democrats have taught them. So unfortunately, even though it's so much fun to bash Jimmy Carter, I've had to start asking myself, was he really a failed president or an evil genius acting like an idiot? Because he's the reason we got the Department of Education.
I'm going to go with broken clock twice a day.
I am not so sure.
Well, truthfully, I think a lot of it is with Carter, he hurt everything, and then Reagan didn't help. But we started getting the Republicans in office, in the 90s to where they refused to do anything, but they worked with Clinton, and then they were all happy about the balanced budget, that it would have been balanced in 10 years. And it's like, well, that's not a balanced budget, because you're looking into the future, hoping that somebody else will do what you told them to do.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I mean, when they were running on, we're going to repeal Obamacare, we had the Senate and the House,
and we didn't do it.
They didn't submit a frickin' bill. Yeah, so what if it was vetoed by the president? Show that you're holding up your promises. And that's the problem with the turtle. I mean, it was all that. Nope, not unless we have the votes.
It was, first of all, put it up and make him veto it. That's always been my stance. And that's why I get so mad when I start hearing people from Fox News talking about the fact that the new Speaker of the House is trying to put out, nationally, like a 15-week abortion ban. No, I don't really want it to be at the national level anymore. I think it should be left up to the states. And Ohio wasn't as bad as everybody makes it out to be. That bill was really confusing in language, but it basically is kind of the same thing that everybody says that they want, for the states to decide, one, if abortion is going to be legal, and two, what the limits are. And that's pretty much what they did. I think theirs is somewhere between 15 to 18 weeks.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that everybody says they want, but because it passed last night, well, obviously the Republicans don't have a good message on abortion, and then you hear... It wasn't one of the candidates. I think it was one of the former press secs, who was on Fox News last night and started screaming about how we needed to prove that we were pro-life from cradle to grave, and that moms should have access to this and moms should have access to that. Started naming off help with daycare, 2 years worth of food, eligibility for food stamps for up to 2 years after birth, etc. And I'm like, so you want us to buy votes?
Yes, that's exactly what that is.
Again, we're back.
Basically become the party that embraces welfare instead of the left. Make it the right. That's what they want. And I'm sorry, no. I'm speaking as June Cleaver here. I managed to do all that crap without having to deal with government assistance, and we were not, by any stretch of them, we weren't even middle class. And if I managed, I'm pretty sure everybody else can. I know many women, single mothers and those in a family unit, that have managed.
2-minute
they
warning.
have managed to do everything. But
2-minute warning.
Okay.
Hurry up, offense. Let's go. Oh, sorry. Long 2-minute warning.
I come from Puerto Rico. If Puerto Rico were to become a state, we would be the largest welfare state in the nation. That's how bad it is over there. And the reason it's always Democrat, it's because of that. They have bought that vote with welfare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just drives me crazy because, I hate to say this, because on one hand, I'm kind of like, it's to a point where we've forgotten that politics is a game of inches, not yards, and we need to remember that. But on the other hand, if we keep presenting clear choices of, we're going to help you not live in a cesspool, we're going to get the economy back on track, we're going to get education back to the point where people are actually learning things, and they want to just keep picking free shit and killing babies, let them pick it. Shit, I already said this in a work chat today. I'm on a 5-year clock. I'm going to make as much money as I can, invest it as well as I can to get it to the point where it's growing, and I'm buying an island, and I'm leaving. I'm done.
Well, I think one of the things the Republicans need to be pushing is over-the-counter birth control. Make and then run on it.
We have pushed that before, and the left has always said, "Oh, we can't do that." Because Planned Parenthood doesn't want that.
Well, Planned Parenthood...
That would be a money loser for Planned Parenthood. They would lose a lot of money.
Yeah, but the problem is it's just like that somebody's tweet earlier today. They didn't know that, right? They came out and said, well, Republicans are trying to ban birth control. And it's like, you do know. And it's like, but the Republicans can't message.
Well, I wouldn't even necessarily go that far, and that's only because some of the more information that is coming out, it's not that we can't message. Our message keeps getting buried and edited and cut and censored because it came out again. 2020, 9 times out of 10, if there was somebody that was Twitter banned, had to delete tweets, whatever the case may be, for supposed misinformation, it was a conservative. It's not that we can't message, it's that they don't want our message getting out, so they do everything they can to stop it.
I agree.
Because we have good, solid messaging, and that's one of the things. I mean, you know, I still think Rona McRomney, and I'm sorry, I'm never going to call her anything else, needs to go, because she's now helmed the GOP through 3 consecutive losses. But the problem is, and this goes back to what we were talking about just a minute ago, the reason they didn't ever undo Obamacare, fundraising. The reason the left, even though they have had control of everything time and time again, never did anything to actually codify abortion is fundraising. Everything these people do is about money. It's not about making your life better. It's not about making my life better. It's how can I get money from my donors and then exchange that for favors to make sure that I get the office that I want. And that's why this shit needs to change. Anyway, time to do a volume check because they're starting to talk now. So, is that too loud? Not loud enough?
I hear it fine.
Okay.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Republican presidential debate. I'm Lester Holt, anchor of NBC Nightly News.
Good evening. I'm Kristen Welker, moderator of NBC's Meet the Press.
Hello, I'm Hugh Hewitt, host of Salem Radio's The Hugh Hewitt Show.
I can't talk crap about you, Hewitt.
When Republican primary voters will begin to determine their party's nominee for president. Tonight, we'll question 5 candidates seeking that nomination on how they're best prepared to be commander-in-chief. And, of course, how best to bring down prices impacting Americans across the country. We have 2 hours for a serious debate on the issues that matter most to Republican voters.
Okay, I'm already laughing.
Did you bring shot collars?
For answers and the opportunity for a closing statement. Follow-ups will be at the discretion of all of us at the table, the moderators.
Chat's asking for it a little
candidate's name or policy does not necessarily mean the mentioned candidate is entitled to a response. We want to caution all the candidates not to interrupt or speak over your fellow debaters. If you talk over each other, voters can't hear you. And given the critical issues we're facing specifically on the world stage, we want everyone to hear every word you have to say. Continued interruptions may result in loss of additional questions. And to our audience, please hold your applause so that the candidates can be heard. With that said, let's have a good debate. All right, our first question, the opening question, is one for all of you. Donald Trump is the first ex-president in more than 100 years to run for the White House again, and he remains popular among Republican primary voters as his legal challenges mount. Governor DeSantis, let me begin with you on this one. Speak to Republican voters who are supporting Donald Trump. Why should you and not him be the Republican nominee to face Joe Biden a year from now?
This country is in trouble, and the elites that have put us here, they don't care about you. They don't care that you're having to grapple with higher grocery prices or have higher gas prices. They don't care that your family's less secure because of the open border that's allowed drugs and even terrorists to come into this country. Well, I care. I am not going to sit idly by and let this country continue its downward spiral. We need leadership, and we need it now. I'll take the hits. I'll take the arrows. I'll take the slings, because ultimately it's not about me. It's about you. I will fight for you. I will make sure to lead this country's revival, and I will win for you and your family. Actions speak louder than words. We don't have time for excuses, and it's not something that we're going to be able to have all these distractions. As a veteran, I will get the job done. Now, if you look where we are now, it's a lot different than where we were in 2016. And Donald Trump's a lot different guy than he was in 2016. He owes it to you be on this stage and explain why he should get another chance. He should explain why he didn't have Mexico pay for the border wall. He should explain why he racked up so much debt. He should explain why he didn't drain the swamp. And he said Republicans were going to get tired of winning. Well, we saw last night, I'm sick of Republicans losing. In Florida, I showed how it's done. 1 year ago here, we won a historic victory, including a massive landslide right here in Miami-Dade County. That's how we have to do it. So I promise you this: as the nominee next November, I'll get the job done, and as president, I will deliver.
Your time
for
is
you.
up. Let me turn to Ambassador Haley. Audience, let me turn to Ambassador Haley. Why you and not the former president?
Well, I think you look at the fact that we're almost $34 trillion in debt. 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 50% of American families can't afford diapers. 1 in 6 American families can't pay their utility bills. You have parents who are worried about what's being said or taught to their child in the classroom. There's no transparency. We have anti-Semitism all over our college campuses, and students feel unsafe. You've got an open border where terrorists can come through, and we've got wars happening all over us, and there are dangers around us. You know, everybody wants to talk about President Trump. Well, I can talk about President Trump. I can tell you that I think he was the right president at the right time. I don't think he's the right president now. I think that he put us $8 trillion in debt, and our kids are never going to forgive us for that. I think the fact that he used to be right on Ukraine and foreign issues, now he's getting weak in the knees and trying to be friendly again. I think that we've got to go back to the fact that we can't live in the past. We can't live in other headlines. We've got to start focusing on what's going to make America strong and proud. And that's what I'm focused on doing. Let's make sure we pay down our debt. I think we need an accountant in the White House. Let's make sure that we have transparency in the classroom. As a mom, I know what that means. Let's make sure we secure our borders so that our families are safe. Let's get crime down, because our families want to know that they can be safe no matter where they go. And as the wife of a combat veteran, I will tell you, a military needs to know we have our back, and we need to make sure that America is strong.
Ambassador, thank you very much. And, let me just
She should have just come out in combat boots.
Let's not go down this road. We've asked you to please, keep restraining yourselves, and it would be helpful so we can hear the candidates, because these are important issues, and the voters want and need to hear them. Mr. Ramaswamy, let me turn to you. Please make your case. Why should you be the nominee and not the former president?
I think there's something deeper going on in the Republican Party here, and I'm upset about what happened last night. We've become a party of losers at the end of the day. It was a cancer in the Republican establishment. Let's speak the truth. I mean, since Ronna McDaniel took over as chairwoman of the RNC in 2017, we have lost 2018,
Beavis, that's
2020,
Romney,
2022, no red wave that never came. We got trounced last night in 2023. And I think that we have to have accountability in our party. For that matter, Ron, if you want to come on stage tonight, you want to look the GOP voters in the eye and tell them you resign, I will yield my time to you. And frankly, look, the people there are cheering for losing in the Republican Party. Think about who's moderating this debate. This should be Tucker Carlson, Joe Rogan, and Elon Musk. We'd have 10 times the viewership, asking questions that GOP primary voters actually care about and bringing more people into our party. You think the Democrats, and we've got Kristen Welker here, do you think the Democrats would actually hire Greg Gutfeld to host a Democratic debate? They wouldn't do it. And so the fact of the matter is, Kristen, I'm going to use this time because this is actually about you in the media and the corrupt media establishment. Ask you, the Trump-Russia collusion hoax that you pushed on this network for years, was that real, or was that Hillary Clinton made-up disinformation? Answer the question. Go.
Somebody check Vivek class and see if Trump's anything of it.
This is how we get our country back. We need accountability, because this media rigged the 2016 election. They rigged the 2020 election with a Hunter Biden laptop story. And they're going to rig this election.
Your time is up.
Accountability.
Let me turn to Governor Christie. Why you, audience, let's not do
Much
this.
as I don't like the guy, he came out swinging.
Speak. Governor Christie, why you and not former president?
Sure sounded a lot like Trump.
Well, Lester, look, you said it.
Well, in case you haven't figured it out yet, he's Trump's surrogate.
We are dealing with extraordinarily important issues.
I'm just surprised we don't see Trump's hand.
We have our
up
greatest
his
ally
ass.
in the Middle East under fire from a terrorist group that has
The
committed
hand is elsewhere.
to wiping
We
them
won't go any further.
and every Jewish person in this world off the map. We have
we get a drink.
Ukraine
Ugh,
with
I'm
Vladimir
drinking.
Putin, a communist
drinks,
KGB dictator who wants to put the old band back together.
I might as
He's
well just
starting
keep the
in
cover in my hand as long
and
as he's
going to
talking.
move to the Baltics and Poland after that.
I am.
We have inflation in this country that is choking every
There's a
American
drink.
family that wants to try to rise up and give their children a better life. And tonight, we need to decide which president is going to be the one to tackle the big issues. who's going to make this country look once again, not just inward, but look outward at the world and say America is the country, the indispensable nation that makes this a safer world. And in a safer world, American innovation, American hard work has always been the thing that has driven our country to greater things. I'm going to be the president who will do those big things. We're not going to be small, and I'll say this about Donald Trump.
Big things.
Anybody who's going to be spending the next year and a half of their life focusing on keeping themselves out of jail and courtrooms cannot lead this party or this country,
All right,
and it needs to be said plainly.
Governor, thank you. Let me turn to Senator Scott. Senator Scott, you've said former President Trump can't win. Make your case to Republican voters.
Well, certainly. What I would say without any question is that the truth of my life destroys the lies of the radical left. We need a president and a candidate who will actually help our base solidify and attract independent voters into our party. The Great Opportunity Party is now winning back African-American voters and Hispanic voters because we are working on a foundation based on faith. Our nation is facing some deep challenges. It is the loss of faith in this nation that is a part of the erosion that we're seeing every single day. It's restoring faith, restoring our Christian values that will help this nation once again become the city on the hill. When Ronald Reagan talked about the city on the hill, he was coming from Matthew 5. When President Lincoln talked about a house divided, that was Mark. Our founding documents speak to the importance of a faith foundation. You don't have to be a Christian for America to work for you, but America does not work without a faith-filled Judeo-Christian foundation. I would be the president that helps us restore faith in God, faith in each other, and faith in our future. Without that focus, none of the issues, the policies matter. We have to get back to being a nation that is, in fact, the city on the hill, that believes in each other enough for us to fight
Scott,
for that future.
Senator Scott, thank you. We're going to turn now to the challenges facing the next commander-in-chief. You'll all be fielding questions first from me and the Republican Jewish Coalition, and then from Kristen and Hugh. So as we continue forward, the Israel-Hamas war is barely a month old. Tonight, Israeli troops are fighting inside Gaza City with over 200 hostages who remain captive there, and civilian casualties mount inside Gaza. As President of the United States, what would you be urging Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do at this moment? Governor DeSantis.
I would be telling Bibi, finish the job once and for all with these butchers, Hamas. They're terrorists. They're massacring innocent people. They would wipe every Jew off the globe if they could. He cannot live with that threat right by his country. That Hamas should release every hostage and they should unconditionally surrender. I'm sick of hearing the media, I'm sick of hearing other people blame Israel just for defending itself. We will stand with Israel in word and in deed, in public and in private. And I can tell you, as governor, I actually did something about it. Biden's neglect has been atrocious. We had Floridians that were over there after the attack. He left them stranded. They couldn't get flights out. So I scrambled resources in Florida. I sent planes over to Israel, and I brought back over 700 people to safety. There could have been more hostages.
Christie was just looking at him like he was a donut.
I met the first plane load when they came to Florida, and one of the mothers pointed to a 6-year-old daughter, and she said, my daughter had been saying the last 2 nights, Mommy, I don't want to hear any more bombs, no more rockets. I just want to get back to Florida. So there's a difference between words and deeds. We acted and we saved lives.
Thank you. Ambassador Haley, what would you do? What would you be urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to do? Would you consider a humanitarian pause, for example?
The first thing I said to him when it happened was I said, finish them. Finish them. And the reason is I worked on this every day when I was at the United Nations. And we have to remember that they have to, 1, eliminate Hamas, 2, support Israel with whatever they need whenever they need it, and 3, make sure we bring our hostages home. We need to be very clear-eyed to know there would be no
That's
Hamas
sexual.
without Iran. There would be
One
no
drink to
Hezbollah
rule
without
them all.
Iran. There would not be the Houthis
There we
without
go.
Iran. And there wouldn't be
Better
the
make it
Iranian
a
militias in Syria and
quadruple.
Iraq that are trying to hit our military men and women if it hadn't been for Iran. And who is funding Iran right now? China is buying oil from Iran. Russia is getting drones and missiles from Iran. And there is an unholy alliance. We need to be clear-eyed. The last thing we need to do is to tell Israel what to do. The only thing we should be doing is supporting them and eliminating Hamas. It is not that Israel needs America. America needs Israel. They are the tip of the spear when it comes to this Islamic terrorism, and we need to make sure that we have their backs in that process.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy.
He missed somebody.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
Just
any
got to say
daylight
Biden.
between you and the candidates we just heard in this issue on what you would tell the Prime Minister?
Not in terms of what I would tell the Prime Minister, no. In fact, I would go one step further. The founding vision of Israel was based on the idea that they don't want to depend on anybody else's sympathy or direction in defending themselves. So what I would tell Bibi is that Israel has the right and the responsibility to defend itself. I would tell him to smoke those terrorists on his southern border. And as President of the United States, I'll be smoking the terrorists on our southern border. That's his responsibility. This is our responsibility. That's how we move forward. But I want to be careful to avoid making the mistakes from the neocon establishment of the past. Corrupt politicians in both parties spent trillions, killed millions, made billions for themselves in places like Iraq and Afghanistan, fighting wars
Welcome,
that sent
Stacey.
thousands of our sons and daughters, people my
I
age, to die,
join
wars
with,
that
like,
did not
Beavis,
advance anyone's
really?
interests. Adding
Hey,
$7
you're
trillion
Hollywood
to
Beavis.
our national debt.
Jesus.
And Joe Biden sold off our foreign policy. Joe
Hollywood
Biden's son,
Beavis.
Hunter Biden,
Oh
got
my
a $5
God,
million
okay.
drive from Ukraine. That's why we're sending $200 billion back to that same country.
I forget
The
if that
matter
was
is,
a
the
Kurt
Republican Party is
Schlichter
not that
or a
much
Rick
better. You
Robinson.
have the likes of Nikki Haley, who stepped down
All I
at
can
the
tell you
UN.
for sure is I got it from
Corrupted
JD.
debt
I don't
was
know
her
where he
family.
got it, but he
Then
said it
she
wasn't
becomes
his
a
either.
military
But I told him I was
contractor.
stealing it
She
anyway.
joins the board of Boeing and
I
otherwise,
think I
and is
saw
now a
Schlichter
multimillionaire.
say
So
it.
I think that that's wrong when Republicans do it or
I
Democrats
think
do
so
it.
too,
That's
Stacey,
the
but I
choice
don't know
we
for
face.
certain.
Do
You
you
know
want
what would be
I was
really
gonna
good?
say, I
generations
think
gonna put this
it
country
sounds like a
first?
Schlichter to
Or
me.
do you
So
want Dick
it does.
Cheney and 3-inch heels?
All right,
In
Mr.
which case, we've got
Ramaswamy.
two of them on stage.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sanders
Senator
turned
Scott,
to him and
yes,
went
Senator,
and
same
said,
I'll
question
just
to you.
I'll just have to
You said
hold
you're
the rest
president,
of my
you're on the
rage
phone
for
in
the
the Oval
comment
Office with the Prime
period.
Minister, you tell him what?
But number one, I would tell Prime Minister.
Why are you
Mr.
still
Netanyahu,
here?
Not only do you have the responsibility and the right
Drop
to
out,
wipe
Tim.
Hamas
I like you,
off
but
of the
stop.
We will support you. We will be there with you. We'll stand shoulder to shoulder. There will be no daylight. But I would change the station a little bit, though, and head back home to America. I would say to President Biden, diplomacy only is a weak strategy. Appeasement leads to war. From President Obama to President Biden, Obama sent millions to Iran. Frankly, President Biden has sent billions to Iran. That is why I've said that there's blood dripping from the hands of President Obama and President Biden. I would tell President Biden with great clarity, if you want to stop the 40-plus attacks on military personnel in the Middle East, you have to strike in Iran. If you want to make a difference, you cannot just continue to have strikes in Syria on warehouses. You actually have to cut off the head of the snake, and the head of the snake is Iran and not simply their proxies. In order for us to have a powerful response.
You send the Mossad
we
in
have to
there
be
to
in a
behead a
position
mullah.
of strength.
Let's do it.
As President of the United States, my foreign
I'd be okay
policy
with that.
is simple. You cannot
I'm sorry,
negotiate
what?
with evil. You have to
Oh, then I'd be
destroy
totally
it.
okay with that.
All right, Senator Scott, thank you. Governor Christie, I want to get you to weigh in here.
Look,
Do we have an
problems
MSNBC
are so
debate
big
on
and
today?
serious
Is that what I understand?
that the first thing I would say
And we're
to
going to have
Prime
Chris
Minister
Christie
Netanyahu
weigh
is
in.
pretty
Can
simple.
anybody just like
America
do the?
is here, no matter
Oh
what it
my
is you
goodness!
need
What irony!
at any time
Weigh in.
to
I love it.
preserve
Weigh
the
in.
state of Israel.
Chris, can you
Remember,
weigh in?
Hamas's
Yeah, I
main
got about
goal is to get rid of
425.
Is to get
You're
Israel
about
absolutely
20
off the
earlier
map.
he was
Now,
going to do large
there are
things.
three things I think I would say to him when he asked for advice.
He
The
was gonna
first
do
I would
large
say is
things.
that it is absolutely your obligation to
Only
protect
large things he
the
does is long
territorial
jumps.
integrity of Israel. Secondly, to make sure you protect
He
the
just
security
makes
and
me
the
want a
safety of your
donut.
people. Every time something happens to
Well, that's
compromise
a
either one
minute
of those
ago
things, it
when
creates greater unrest in
DeSantis
the
was
entire
talking.
region.
He was eyeing him like dude was
Second,
a
you must
cream-filled
go in
cruller
and
or
make
something.
sure
It was
that
kind of
Hamas
creepy.
can never do this again.
The fact is that Israel and their intelligence community failed. They failed here, and they failed the people of the state of Israel. And so we need to work closely and better together to make sure, one, that they're degraded, and two, that we know everything that's going on inside Gaza Strip when it's going on, so that something like this can't happen to kill 1,400 individuals again. And the third thing is to keep your eye on the ball. Make sure.
The good thing Christie's not in the middle of the white suit or be double stuffed Oreo.
Work with the reasonable nations in the Middle East, the other Arab nations who want to partner with you.
Wait, they have a mega stuffed Oreo now. That would probably fit better.
Their only friends in the world are the part of the evil foursome: China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea.
Governor Christie, thank you very much. And we're going to continue in this vein right now with a question from Matthew Brooks, the CEO.
We're going to put what in our veins? What?
A partner of the Republican National Committee in this debate. Here it is.
Given attacks by Iranian-backed proxy groups on U.S. military bases in Syria and Iraq, attacks that have wounded approximately 24 of our U.s. servicemen, do you support
Oh, so this is the neocon debate. Is that where we're at?
Against Iran?
Pretty much. We've been for a while now.
Yes, at first,
Okay,
like
I'm
the
all in.
shields,
I'm all
and I
in
don't
for
wear them
beheading
unless you
some
can run in
mullahs.
them.
Like we should have done that during the Iranian protests during Trump. We just should have gone in there and cleaned them out.
What I will say is, I wear heels.
We should have sent Soleimani in a box and then sent a couple of mullahs in a box. That's what we should have done.
In Syria is, first of all, the idea that our men and women
People have
could be
been wreaking
targeted,
havoc
and
on
that
the
we've
globe for
allowed
my
almost
entire life.
100 hits to happen under Biden's watch.
And that's been
is
a long
unthinkable.
fucking time. I'm
we
old.
need to understand this is Iran giving the green light, telling them what to do, and we shouldn't be doing the tit for tat like what Joe Biden has done. We need to go and take out their infrastructure that they are using to make those strikes with so they can never do it again. Iran responds to strength. You punch them one and you punch them hard and they will back off. But what we don't need is Biden falling all over himself to get back in the Iran
Fuck
deal.
drinking, I hit the
Giving
ball.
$6 billion to get five
I
hostages
gotta
home.
change my
Him
IV.
telling Netanyahu now that he needs a pause or a ceasefire. We don't need him going and sitting there tiptoeing around Iran because he thinks they're going to do something. You don't respond to an enemy and a terrorist with fear. You respond with strength. When you do that, that's when the world pays attention, and that's when Iran stops.
Thank you. Governor DeSantis, if I can continue with you. Just today, the U.S. launched another one of its limited airstrikes against targets in Syria, this time Iranian-linked facility. How far would you go militarily to hold Iran accountable?
Well, first, Matt, thanks for your
Parking
question,
lot.
and I appreciate what you've done over the last month. I know it's been very difficult for the community, and appreciate you guys rallying together in difficult times. I actually served in Iraq back in the day, and we had Al-Qaeda in Iraq. You had Shia militias that were funded by Iran that were killing hundreds and hundreds of U.S. troops. And as commander-in-chief, I am not going to put our troops in harm's way unless you're willing to defend them with everything you have. Biden has them out there. They're sitting ducks. He's doing glancing blows. That's just inviting more attacks from the Iranians. I would say you harm a hair on the head of an American service member, and you are going to have hell to pay. We are not just going to sit there and let our service members be sitting ducks, and that's true whether it's Iran or whether it's any country on the world.
That was a bong hit. Don't judge me. I'm new.
We have to defend the people who defend us.
I thought that's what it was. Guys, my president is speaking.
From Matthew Brooks of the Republican Jewish Coalition. Please watch.
Jewish students across the country are threatened and under attack. What do you say to Jewish students on college campuses who feel unsafe given the dramatic rise in anti-Semitism? And what do you say to university presidents and college presidents who have not met the moral clarity moment to forcefully condemn Hamas terrorism?
Mr. Ramaswamy, would you like to take that one?
This is happening on
The scourge of
MSNBC.
anti-Semitism across this country.
Technically, it's NBC, but I think it's being simulcast by MSDNC too.
But here's what history teaches us. Anti-Semitism is a symptom of a deeper cancer in a country and a society that is lost. And we are lost. Several years ago, when I wrote my first book, Woke Inc., I was talking about they were chanting death to America. Death to white people, death to Christians. Nobody was waking up back then. Now it's even bad. Now they're saying death to Israel and worse. So it is wrong, but we have to get to the root cause here. Now, I think
Nice
it's really
book
important that we do
plug,
this through
Bollywood
leadership,
book there,
not
Bollywood
censorship.
Bees.
Leadership means fill that void with purpose and
That's
meaning.
the only way he can grip.
No. What you do is all of these colleges and universities now become non-tax exempt. We tax their endowments. They're
I also want
done.
to caution here, if we go the direction of Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley, with whom I respectfully disagree on this issue, pro-censorship, telling student groups to disband, mark my words, soon they will say if you question a vaccine and its side effects, you're a bioterrorist. Soon they will say that if you show up at a school board meeting, you're a domestic
They
terrorist.
already do that
Soon
dumb
they say
shit.
that J6 prisoners should be released. You're an insurrectionist terrorist. So that's where
this
this
is
road
just
ends.
the Trump
We don't
line.
quash this with censorship because that creates a worse underbelly. We quell it through leadership by calling it out. These university administrators have lost their way, and we need leadership at the top in the United States of America that restores our founding values and that has no place for
Another
this
bong
kind of
hit, Rick,
anti-Semitic
really?
hate. That's where I stand.
I'm going to have to be high to do this show. I ain't going to try to lie about it anymore.
Okay, but like what nobody is saying is that if you in any other period in our history had expressed support publicly for a terrorist organization or attempted to give one in material support in any way, they could get a FISA warrant on you, they could tap your phone, they could freaking arrest you. Like, this is not new. So why are we treating these kids with kid gloves, Mr. Ramaswamy?
Number 3.
We created the entire security state to deal with these kinds of threats. Let's deal with them. I bet they'll change their freaking mind after they spend a few nights in the clink. These are young white college kids who have no meaning and no purpose in life.
Period. To all the students.
And if they're here on a visa, get out.
Who are encouraging Jewish genocide, I would deport you from those campuses.
Yes.
We have to stand strong with our Jewish Americans. At the end of the day, we should not have our Jewish students in a library being told to hide. On our streets in New York, a Jewish citizen has the right to walk on the streets of America with no fear. They have the right to go to college campuses, go to class, and not
still
fear.
need to drop
we
out,
will
but
restore that. I started working on anti-Semitism on college campuses in 2017 because even then there was a rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses. We must force the people off those campuses and
Senator
frankly
Scott, thank you. Let me turn to the Governor DeSantis here. What do you think about what he just said?
And tenure.
I was the first presidential candidate to say, if you are here on a student visa as a foreign national, you're making common cause with Hamas, I'm canceling your visa and I'm sending you home. No questions asked.
Yes.
Second, I have friends
My
here in
president.
Florida who their kids do not feel safe even going to university campus at all outside of the state of Florida. You have Jewish students fleeing for their lives at Cooper Union. Joe Biden should have the Department of Justice on these college campuses and holding the universities accountable for civil rights violations. When you should not have money going to these places. I already acted in Florida. We had a group, Students for Justice of Palestine. They said they are common cause with Hamas. They said, we're not just in solidarity, this is what we are. We deactivated them. We're not going to use state tax dollars to fund jihad. No way. And what is Biden doing? Not only is he not helping the Jewish students who are being persecuted, he is launching an initiative to combat so-called Islamophobia. No, it's the anti-Semitism that's spiraling out of control. That is what we have to confront. And as president, I can tell you this. We are not going to stand for this on college campuses any longer.
All right, Governor, thank you. Let me turn to Governor Christie. And considering what he just said, you led a state with a sizable Muslim population. Last month, as you know, a 6-year-old Palestinian-American boy was killed in Illinois by his landlord. His mother was also stabbed more than a dozen times in what has been charged as a hate crime. What do you say to Muslim Americans who are also feeling afraid for their safety right now?
Lester, I'm the only one on the stage who's actually had experience in dealing with this. I was appointed by President Bush to be the U.S. Attorney in New Jersey on September 10th, 2001. And when I took over that job after the September 11th attacks, I had to deal with a situation in our state that was explosive. We're the most ethnically diverse state in this country. And so first, we heard credible reports about Jewish students and synagogues being threatened in our state. in the aftermath of 9/11.
So,
we made sure that we sent federal
California's not
agents to those
entering Jack
synagogues
there,
and we
Christy?
protected them, and the same thing should be being done now. At the very same time, I personally went from mosque to mosque in New Jersey and met with the leaders of those mosques and with the members of the mosques. And I said to them, law enforcement is on your side to protect you, regardless of your religion, if you are going to comply with the law.
That sound you
And
hear
we
is the toilet
developed
flushing.
fabulous relationships with Muslim Americans all across the state of New Jersey.
Do I need to do
and
a
we
simply
stopped
flush?
Are you
any
saying that
were
Chris
going
Christie
on
just shit his
either against
campaign?
Jewish Americans in New Jersey.
No,
or
that
Muslim
sound
Americans
you're
in New
hearing
Jersey.
is the toilet
It takes
trying to
leadership,
flush.
Lester, to know how to do this. You must work with both sides. Both sides need to know it, but let us never
We have an
a false
imam
moral equivalence
in
between
Michigan,
Hamas and Hezbollah and
outside
the
of
Jewish people.
Detroit,
The
from
Jewish
Rashida
people stand for
Tlaib's
right
home
and
district,
justice, and Hamas and
talking
Hezbollah
about the 12th
stand for
Imam,
death.
Christie, thank you.
Armageddon,
Ambassador
and
Haley,
Sharia law
what do
here
you
in
say
these
to
United States of
Americans who are simply
America.
afraid
You
right
don't
now
go
in
to
this-
a
in
mosque
this
and
current
coddle
environment that we're
those
talking
fucking
about?
people.
I think
No
that, you know, you
Islamists,
look at
none.
the
Deport
country
them all.
and the country is all out of sorts. I think
they're doing
look
that
at what these
now,
kids
right?
are dealing with on college
Because you
campuses.
got
What makes
so
me
many of
so
them,
angry is
they're now
not
their
only do
city
you have the
councils
kids
and all like that. They're
barricaded
starting to
in
do
the
this,
library.
and it's like
They said they were going to shoot up the kosher dining hall. You've got kids' dorm rooms who are being set on fire because they
That
have
one wasn't me,
something
so nobody
related
can
to
yell at me
Israel
about
on
that
their
one.
doors. No person should ever feel in danger like this. And this is what I would say about our college presidents, is if the KKK were doing this, every college president would be up in arms. This is no different. You should treat it exactly the same. Anti-Semitism is just as awful as racism, and we've got to make sure they're protected. And for everybody that's protesting on these college campuses in favor of Hamas, let me remind you something. Hamas said death to Israel and death to America. They hate and would kill you too. And the idea that they're talking about genocide for the Jewish people, that's not the values of America. That's not us. We're better than that. We don't need to celebrate terrorists. We don't need to celebrate genocide. We don't need to celebrate violence towards anybody. We need to go back and soul search in our country and remember what we are about. And we are about taking care of people, not going and making them live in fear because some other terrorist activity says they want to destroy them.
Ambassador, thank you. Kristen.
Lester, thank you. This is another question for the entire field, so you will all get a chance to respond. But Senator Scott, I'd like to start with you. The United States has given Ukraine financial and military support since the war began more than 600 days ago. President Zelensky told me on Sunday, if Russia isn't stopped now, quote, the price will be higher for the United States, and Americans would be forced to, quote, send your sons and daughters to defend NATO countries. Senator Scott, where do you stand on more funding for Ukraine?
I certainly have been very supportive of Ukraine. I believe that ultimately we should make sure that the President of the United States states what is America's national vital interest in Ukraine. It is actually in degrading the Russian military. We've been very effective using our resources and our weaponry and the incredibly high price
he's getting the
of
kickback,
Ukrainian
isn't he?
blood to achieve that objective. Every day we get closer to the degradation of the Russian military, and that's
how
good
much he's
news.
making
But
in
the
stock
American
on
people are
the
frustrated that they
weapons.
do not have a president who reminds us and tells us where's the accountability?
Military
Where
machine.
are those dollars? How are those dollars being spent? We need those answers for us to continue to see the support for Ukraine. And at the same time, I would say that a package that's been offered by the president for Ukraine and Israel, that's the wrong approach. We need to focus specifically on providing Israel with the $14 billion that they need so that we show the world that we are 100% undeniably standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel. And then as we turn away from that direct support for Israel, we should go to our southern border and close our southern border with the resources necessary. I believe that we have sleeper terrorist cells in America. Thousands of people have come from Yemen, Iran, Syria, and Iraq. If we are going to deal with the national security emergency at our border,
Senator
we have
Scott.
to do it now.
Senator Scott, thank you. But just to be very clear, if you were president, if you were in the Oval Office today, would you sign off on more military funding for Ukraine, or would you discontinue it?
Bottom line is we have to first have the level of accountability that allows the American people to understand where the resources have gone. Number one. Number two, after we have that responsibility taken care of and accountability, then we have an opportunity to look at the overall strategy that helps us degrade the Russian military while we use our resources and, frankly, keeping our NATO partners safe from the Russian military is absolutely essential. As you understand,
Tim,
Article
answer the
5
question.
would require to support and to defend NATO, our troops on the ground.
He
The
doesn't
fastest
ever
way
do
for
that.
us to
Have you not
eliminate
noticed?
that possibility is for us to destroy, to the extent possible, the Russian military. By doing
just
so,
like I don't
we
support
actually
Hamas,
achieve the objective of keeping our military
release the
whole,
hostages.
and that's good news.
Thank
Stop
you, Senator
supporting
Scott. Mr. Ramaswamy, are
Ukraine.
you persuaded by President Zelensky's urgent new plea? Where do you stand on more funding?
I'm absolutely unpersuaded. And I'm actually enjoying watching the Ukraine hawks quietly, delicately tiptoe back from their position as this thing has unwound into a disaster. The first half of this race, I was the only person standing for it. Now they're actually quietly coming around to being more cautious, as they should. Level with the American people here. Ukraine is not a paragon of democracy. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties. It has consolidated all media into one state TV media arm. That's not democratic. It has threatened not to hold elections this year unless the U.S. forks over more money. That is not democratic. It has celebrated a Nazi in its ranks, the comedian in cargo pants, a man called Zelensky, doing it in their own ranks. That is not democratic. More facts for you that you won't hear from the mainstream in either party or the mainstream media. The regions of Ukraine that are occupied by Russia right now in the Donbass, Luhansk, Donetsk. These are Russian-speaking regions that have not even been part of Ukraine since 2014, that other people probably couldn't name those provinces for you. Those are the hard facts. And so to frame this as some kind of battle between good versus evil, don't buy it. And I'd like the likes of the sharpest of the war hawks on Ukraine, Nikki Haley, to have some accountability and answer. Do you want to use U.S. taxpayer money to fund the banning of Christians? That is actually what's happening. They're using the Ukrainian Orthodox Church. They have banned them. The Ukrainian parliament just did this last week, supported by our dollars. And I think you owe it to the American people, Nikki, to at least this one time at least condemn,
thank you. That's time.
at least to condemn their banning of Christians.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
or else
thank
we're
you.
talking out of both sides
Mr.
of our
Ramaswamy, thank you. We asked the questions. Ambassador Haley,
Well, she deserves to
what
answer.
is your take on more funding for Ukraine?
I am telling you, Putin and President Xi are salivating at the thought that someone like that could become president. They would love to see
The fact of the matter is she doesn't answer
So this
the
is what
question.
I will tell you.
We're driving Russia into China's
Mr.
hands
Ramaswamy,
because of
you
these
had
foolish
your
policies.
time to talk. The ambassador has the floor.
Thank
Ambassador,
you. The
please.
first thing I'll tell you is we all remember what that thug did when he invaded Ukraine. We all know that 500,000 people have died because of Putin. And here is a freedom-loving, pro-American country that is fighting for its survival and its democracy. No, I don't think we should give them cash. I think we should give them the equipment and the ammunition to win. And I'll tell you, if Biden had done it when they first asked for it, this war would be over. But let's also remember this. When you left Afghanistan in shambles and left them with a ton of weapons and money, it's not that we left, it's how we left. When you look at Ukraine, don't think for a second, now everybody wants to move away from Ukraine. They'll want to move away from Israel a year from now. America can never be so arrogant to think we don't need friends. After 9/11, we needed a lot of friends. Now is the time to get partnerships. This unholy alliance between Russia, Ukraine, and China is real. There is a reason that Taiwanese want us to support the Ukrainians. It's because they know that China's coming after them next. There is a reason Ukrainians want us to support Israelis, because they know that if Iran wins, Russia wins.
Ambassador,
we have to see the combination of the three.
Ambassador, thank you. Governor Christie, what is your take, and how long should Americans be expected to help fund the war in Ukraine?
Kirsten, let's remember the last time that we turned our back on a shooting war in Europe. It bought us just a couple of years. And then 500,000 Americans were killed in Europe to defeat Hitler. This is not a choice. This is the price we pay for being the leaders of the free world. And the fact is, this alliance is not just with Russia and China. Governor Haley knows this. Iran is in the middle of this as well, and so is North Korea. And they are all working to support Russia right now. And the reason they're doing it is because dictators work together. People who believe in democracy work together. We must stand with all of those that are standing up for democracy and freedom in this world. And by the way, let's remind everybody of this. In 1992, this country made a promise to Ukraine. We said if you return nuclear missiles that were part of the old Soviet Union to Russia and they invade you, we will protect you. An American promise that's 31 years old is no different than an American promise that's made tonight on this stage. We need to stand by it. And those of us who forget history are doomed to repeat it. And
I'd like to respond.
And the absolute giving in to dictators, which is being suggested on this stage, just shows the immaturity of the approach.
Governor Christie, thank you. Governor DeSantis, I'd like you to weigh in on this idea. Are you concerned that this could become a wider war if Putin is not stopped now?
Well, any suggestion by Zelensky or anyone else that we're going to eventually have U.S. troops there, I can tell the American people when I'm president that will not happen. We are not going to send your sons and daughters to Ukraine. I am going to send troops to our southern border. If you look at the threats that we face, terrorists have come in through our southern border. I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to have the military, and I'm going to deport the people who've come, particularly under Biden, who've come from the Middle East, come from all these places. Now, Biden wants $105 billion. 60, most of that's Ukraine, including some of it going to pay pensions for bureaucrats and salaries. That is a totally ridiculous use of American tax dollars. He says he has money for border to try to do, and the media will repeat that. When you look at it, what most of the money is money to process more illegal aliens into this country. How is that solving the problem? That's making the problem worse. And what does he do for the Indo-Pacific? A pittance. That is the top threat that we face. We need to bring this war to an end. We need the Europeans to step up and do their fair share. And we need to get serious about the top threat that this country faces, which is the Chinese Communist Party.
So if I may respond to the Ukraine question.
In fact, we are going to go from the hot wars in Ukraine and Gaza and Israel to what many people are calling the new Cold War with China. And I remind the audience that it's important for our visitors at home to be able to hear you, and especially for the people in Beijing to hear you. Many Republicans believe that the Chinese Communist Party and General Secretary Xi is an existential threat to the United States. The flashpoint is Taiwan. For decades and decades, the American military, but primarily the United States Navy, has deterred an attack from China to the island state of Taiwan. But Ronald Reagan's Navy of 600 ships is gone. Now, the question to you is, and I'll start with you, Ambassador Haley, because you were in President Trump's cabinet. His goal was a 355-ship Navy. That's what he pushed for. He got to 300. It's now at 291. Is that big enough to deter and, if necessary, defeat an invasion of Taiwan?
China has the largest naval fleet in the world. They have 350 ships.
I gotta say,
They'll have
NBC
400
does a
ships
better
in 2
job
years.
controlling
We
the
won't
debate
even
than
have
Fox
350 ships in 2 decades. China has built up their military. It's not just land, air, and sea. They're doing cyber. They're doing artificial intelligence. They're doing space. America needs to modernize our military. We need to do everything we can. The first thing is you go and you make sure you have the backs of Ukraine. That's why the Taiwanese want us to support Ukraine, because they know that sends the biggest message to China. The second thing is we go to China and we start being tough on them. No more sales of our American soil to China, and let's take back what they've already stolen. Then you go and to the universities. No more having millions of dollars go to our universities. Then we will go and end all formal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans from fentanyl, something Ron has yet to say that he's going to do. And then we modernize our military. When we strengthen our military, when we modernize it with the focus of cyber, artificial intelligence, and space, when we make sure that we have the backs of our friends, whether it's in Israel, whether it's in Ukraine, and we should be arming Taiwan. Make sure they have the equipment they need. Make sure they have the training they need now. There's nothing China fears more than knowing that America will have Taiwan's back. Let's make sure that we show it by making sure they have the equipment they need.
Governor DeSantis, my question is specifically about the Navy. It's at 291. It's going to go down perhaps as low as 280. Is it enough? And what would you build if you were going to build more?
Not enough. We have to have the ability to back up a strategy of denial of President Xi's ambitions. And if China is able to be the world's leading superpower, that will affect you and your family in ways that are going to be very bad. They will export authoritarianism all around the world as the cost of doing business. They will impose things like social credit scores and internet monitoring. So this is, to this generation, what the Soviet Union was to the post-World War II generation. I've already released a plan. We're going to get to 355 ships at the end of the first term, 385 ships at the end of the second term, but we're going to have a path to 600 ships over the next 20 years. I think the future of freedom is going to be determined in the Indo-Pacific. We have a strategy not just military, but decoupling from the economy and fighting them here at home with their cultural. You know, Ambassador Haley said somehow I wasn't doing. She welcomed them into South Carolina, gave them land near a military base, wrote the Chinese ambassador a love letter saying what a great friend they were. That was like their number one way to do economic development. In Florida, I banned China from buying land in this state, and we kicked out on our universities, and we kicked the Confucius Institutes out of our universities. We've recognized the threat, and we've acted swiftly and decisively.
Senator Scott, you've been in the Congress since 2011. Defense spending has fallen over that entire period of time. Where are we going to get the money, and what would you build, and what kind of ships to deter China from attacking Taiwan?
Well, two major problems with the question. Number one, we do not have currently a defense industrial bank to allow us to have the kind of production that we need in order to keep America safe. Frankly, if we are not prepared to fight and engage in 3 continents,
can you ever just answer the fucking question?
Think about where we are today. In the Middle East, we are in the midst of trying to back our strongest
He's a
ally.
politician.
In Eastern Europe, we've seen our resources and our weaponry help degrade the Russian military. The Indo-Pacific, we have real challenges. The long-term threat is China. Immediate threat is our southern border. In order for us to have the military to fight 3 different continents at the exact same time, we are going to have to invest heavily in our military, but we're also going to have to invest heavily in an industrial base.
You're going to have to train the military.
So in other words, you don't have an answer to the question. Just say that and shut up.
With our planes, we are so old as a military that in order for us to recalibrate, we're going to have to invest. One of the things I do in my Made in America strategy is we create more than 4 million new jobs.
There really needs to be a debate protocol for shot callers.
Come back
I'm
to
just
America,
saying.
decoupling from China, so that we focus our attention on creating the industrial
I think
revolution
we need somebody
necessary
to
for us to achieve the goal
throw
of having
punches
a
or
military
big punches.
that is ready to be lethal and come home safe.
Senator, Mr. Ramaswamy, I'm looking for specifics. What would you build? Where would you build it? When would they be in the water? How big would the fleet get?
First answer is,
If he says I'll make a
Building out of Legos would probably be his first question if he could get away with it.
decommissioning ships in the South China Sea. The foundation of war is economics. Rebuild our defense industrial base at home. But here's the dirty little secret. Our actual defense industrial base depends on China for the supply chain, for the F-35 jets, for the ships that we're building. Think about this. Why are we stockpiling that if it isn't to actually be strong against our enemy, China? We depend on them for that, just like we depend on them for pharmaceuticals, just like we depend on them for semiconductors. So here's why we can't get tough with China. It's because we depend on them for our modern way of life, and we have to declare economic independence from our enemy. That's the Declaration of Independence that Thomas Jefferson, at the age of 33, would have signed. And today, if he were alive, that's the Declaration of Independence that I will sign as the next president. I do have to recognize that Ron DeSantis was correct about acknowledging Nikki Haley's tough talk when she was ambassador to the UN, calling China our great friend, bringing the CCP to South Carolina. What he left out, though, Ron, and be honest about it, there was a lobbying-based exemption in that bill that allowed Chinese nationals to buy land within a 20-mile radius of a military base lobbied for by one of your donors. So I think we have to call a spade a spade. We need politicians who are independent of the forces that increase our dependence on China.
Flag on the play, racist language.
Is this. You are done buying land in this country. You will not donate to universities in this country. U.S. businesses won't expand into the Chinese market until you play by the same
Although, is it really racist if a less dark spade calls a spade a spade?
Accountability for the COVID-19 pandemic financially, which unleashed hell on the world, we have to hold them accountable.
Do you have a number and a plan?
I think that we need to increase our naval capacity by at least 20% over the course of the next several years. I think we have to, at minimum, be able to meet our AUKUS agreement standards. Right now, we are at risk of not even being able to meet our AUKUS standards with Australia and the UK. So what we need to do is have a plan that reverses the trajectory of the divest to invest program
I'd like to
by 20% over the next 3 years.
Governor Christie?
You know, my first observation, Hugh, is that nobody answers your question. And my second observation is these three in the middle think they're the enemy. I know China is the enemy, and that's what we should be focused on. So let's be really clear. The nuclear submarines in this United States Navy is the greatest deterrent to Chinese aggression, and that is the first place I would go to increase American naval power. Our nuclear submarines are able to move stealthily, quietly, and effectively, and if we are going to deter China from invading Taiwan, the only way we're going to do it is to make sure that they don't know whether how many nuclear submarines from the United States of America are in the South China Sea and in that area and ready to strike on them if they decide to move on Taiwan. And so we, as our first priority, need to go directly to our nuclear sub-program, Hugh, and we need to increase it drastically. That would be priority number one. Ships would come
They
next,
asked you how
but to
many,
me,
Chris.
the ships are secondary choice here. The submarines are the single most important thing that we could be using to deter China.
He was
But the other
confused.
thing we
He
can do
thought
to
they
deter
meant
China
submarine
is
sandwiches.
that the blood money they're spending for Russia in
I'm on
Ukraine
my
right
second drink
now
already.
will not be effective.
Nuclear
That we send Putin home with
nuclear
his tail
submarines
between
are
his
great
legs
for
and
a
make them understand that
surprise
the same
attack,
fate waits for
but
them.
if you
they
don't have
decide to move
aircraft
towards
carriers
Taiwan
that can
with
reach
a more
out and
aggressive
touch
nuclear
anywhere in
sub-program,
China,
we'll be able to make that threat real.
Thank you, Governor. We're going to take a brief pause now, and we'll be back to the Republican presidential primary debate.
All right, well, I guess since they're taking a break, we'll take a break, because I have to refill my drink, because good Lord. All right. Let me bring the volume down on this while they're going to commercial. That's loud. Anyway. All right, so we are going to take a quick break ourselves, so I can refill my drink. I still have to say this.
I'm changing my IV bottle.
This is the song I'm feeling the most still, even after this debate. So we're going to break with this one again. All right, we'll be right back. You are listening to Poli-Sci 11T MK. Well, Poli-Sci 11T Million. With Aggie Regan, Stacey Lennox, and Andrew, and I'm Rick Robinson. And we'll be back when they're back. I don't know. I need a bigger glass, so I may be gone for a minute. Be right back.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is, if getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now, 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Hi, I'm Mike, founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is...
Alright, so we'll be rejoining in progress because our break was longer than theirs. That's rare. Normally ours are shorter. But bringing the volume back up now, and then I'll bring the panel back in a second.
One used to push propaganda and divide America. It's spyware, he said, a means of surveillance. Governor Christie, do you agree with Chairman Gallagher? And if so, would you ban or force the sale of TikTok?
I agree 100% with Chairman Gallagher, and let me say this. TikTok is not only spyware. It is polluting the minds of American young people all throughout this country, and they're doing it intentionally. And when you saw what happened in the last few weeks with all of this anti-Semitic, horrible stuff that their algorithms were pushing out at a gargantuan rate, this is China trying to further divide the United States of America. And this is one of the big failings among many of the Trump administration. He talked tough about TikTok. I heard him do it many times. But when it came down to it, he did not ban them when he could have and should have. And now since then, we've had an additional nearly 6 years of this type of poison being put out throughout the United States, even putting aside the spying, which we know is going on, and the theft of American personal data and information. So in my first week as president, we would ban TikTok. They want to go ahead and sell it? Let them go ahead and sell it. But I'll tell you another reason we would do it. Facebook's not in China. X is not in China. They're not permitting a free flow of information to the Chinese people from our social media companies, yet we just open the door and let them do what they're doing. TikTok should be banned because they are poisoning American minds, and I would do it week 1.
Thank you, Governor. I want to go to Governor DeSantis. Would you ban or force the sale of TikTok, regardless of whether or not China allowed American apps to operate in China?
Yes, I think that China is the top threat we face. They've been very effective at infiltrating different parts of our society. So my policy on China and the Chinese Communist Party is very simple. We win, they lose. And in order to do that, it's not just military, it's economic, and it's cultural. And as the dad of a 6'5" and a 3-year-old, I'm concerned about the data that they're getting from our young people and what they're doing to pollute the minds of our young people. These kids get these devices and they have a mind of their own. And I know a lot of parents are looking, it's hard to even keep it out. China's obviously the most extreme, but this is happening with other things. So we are going to do that, and we are going to make sure to protect the American people. It's a full spectrum approach to be able to fend China off. Yes, military deterrence. Yes, economic decoupling, but also their role in our culture. If we ignore that, we're not going to be able to win the fight.
Thank you, Governor. Ambassador Haley, speak to the parents out there. There are probably TikTok apps on half the phones in this auditorium.
No, I'm going to speak to the fact that 2 people hit me and you didn't let me respond. So let's first talk about the fact that they want to talk about the Chinese land from 10 years ago. Yes, I brought a fiberglass company 10 years ago to South Carolina. But, Ron, you are the chair of your economic development agency that, as of last week, said Florida is the ideal place for Chinese businesses. Not only that, you have a company that is manufacturer of Chinese military planes. You have it. They are expanding 2 training sites at 2 of your airports now, one which is 12 miles away from a naval base. Then you have another company that's expanding, and they were just invaded by the Department of Homeland Security. So mine was 10 years ago.
You gave
Yours
them
was
stuff.
6
I
months
didn't
ago.
give them anything.
What's your story?
And I abolished that agency that she's talking about.
No,
Enterprise Florida, we abolished it, and of course we banned China from buying
the
land.
website
Not
last
exactly
week.
a
Go
great
check.
recruiting pitch if you're banning them from purchasing land
scrubbed
at
the
all. So
website
we've stood
last
up
week.
and
Thank
we've
you,
done the
Ambassador
right thing
Haley.
in Florida.
Mr. Ramaswamy, we've talked about this. You campaign on TikTok. How do you get TikTok banned if you use it?
Well, I want to laugh at why Nikki Haley didn't answer your question, which is about looking at families in the eye. In the last debate, she made fun of me for actually joining TikTok while her own daughter was actually using the app for a long time. So you might want to take care of your family first.
Leave my
before
daughter
appreciating
out of
anybody
your
else,
voice.
adult daughter. The next generation of Americans are using it. And that's actually the point. You have her supporters propping her up. That's fine. Here's the truth. The easy answer is actually to say that we're just going to ban one app.
She finally said something I agree with.
We have to ban any U.S. company actually transferring U.S. data to the Chinese. Here's a story most people don't know. Airbnb hands over U.S. user data to the CCP. Now, that's a U.S.-owned company. So this is the problem when you have Republicans that temporarily go the way the winds blow, and now it's popular to talk tough on China. When she was UN ambassador, called them literally, her words, not mine, our great friend. You can't be fair-weather fans of the right policy. Get to the root cause. Even U.S. companies in Silicon Valley are regularly doing it. Cut the virtue signaling. The fact of the matter is Democrats are on TikTok today. The only person, one of the few people who is putting up content the way the actual algorithms work, speaking for pro-Israel views or others, is
Ambassador
me. And I
Haley,
predict more Republicans will join it. But stop U.S. companies from turning over data to Chinese companies.
China is asshole.
Like,
Kristen don't get to respond to personal attacks, but you do.
Thank you very much. You know, when he talks about me praising China, he doesn't know the fact that the reason China was praised was because I negotiated with China and Russia the largest set of sanctions against North Korea in a generation. That is literally the reason North Korea stopped testing ballistic missiles. So I said China did good on their part. That was a negotiation you could never do.
Is what you said, Nikki. Those are your words, not mine. And so just own up to it.
You would never
you can
have
change
been able
your
to
mind.
get
That's
that
allowed.
negotiation
But don't
done.
lie to the people about what you've said or what you've done in South Carolina.
My
You have brought them to South
entire
Carolina.
career,
to buy shock
every day
dollars.
I fought China, and I did it by making sure
harm
no
that
one
she
could
brought.
get
If Nikki
any
looked at
agency
him and
heads
just
in
said,
UN.
"Look,
I
Venus,
did it by
shut your
making
hole,"
sure that
I'd
we
vote for her.
called them out on human rights. I did it by making sure that we held them accountable on everything that they did. That's the reason we got out of the Human Rights Council. That's the reason we called them out. And there's not been a day I haven't
Nikki,
stopped.
Senator Scott, it is your turn.
Policy
Mr.
experience with the millions you
Ramaswamy.
made afterwards.
Everybody else is hanging on to the rules here, Mr. Ramaswamy. Senator Scott.
Thank you. We should. I appreciate y'all clapping for me already. This is wonderful answer. Love this. Without any question. What we should do is ban TikTok, period. Now, we saw under former President Trump, he tried to ban TikTok twice, but was struck down by our federal courts. If you cannot ban TikTok, you should eliminate the Chinese presence on the app. Period. We also should provide, in my parents' Bill of Rights, we give parents the opportunity to give their kids permission under 14 to be on those apps. I think it's incredibly important for us as Americans to take back control of the information, especially our kids. Where does it go? We should know that. One of the ways that we get to know that is by having a parental consent. But if we can eliminate TikTok, that is a first step. But it's not just TikTok. China continues to spy on our kids, but they're also buying our farmlands. We talked about that several times there. We have to make sure that we use the tools that are in our toolkit to stop China from buying farmland near our bases. The first thing we have to do is make sure that they stop stealing our intellectual property. They're literally stealing our IP to compete against us. In my administration, we stop that day one, and we start making sure that we create six-figure income for jobs made in America through my strategy.
Kristen.
you.
How
Thank
come
you so
all of
much.
these,
We're now going to
all
talk
of
about
them are saying
Venezuela,
they
where
will do
millions have
something
fled political
first
and economic
day
turmoil.
and not
Many Venezuelan
direct
immigrants
Congress
are settling right
to
here
make
in
legislation?
Florida. Former President Trump and President
Because
Biden
we all
have taken
rule by
different
fiat
approaches to
anymore, and
Nicolas
everybody
Maduro's
knows that.
regime with
But
little
I've
result. Former
decided
President
something.
Trump put
Tim Scott is
economic
the
pressure
first
on
candidate,
Venezuela
in my
and
opinion, to
backed
earn
one of
walkout
Maduro's
music,
rivals.
and it
President
should
Biden
be,
temporarily
but I got
sanctions
high.
to encourage electoral reforms.
Yeah, there we go.
Governor DeSantis, do you see the political situation in Venezuela as a threat to the United States, and what would your approach be?
We should never rely on Venezuela for oil like Biden has had to go beg. I'm going to unleash all of America's energy potential. On day one, I'm taking all the Biden regulations, the Green New Deal, ripping it up and throwing it in the trash can where it belongs. We're going to lower your gas prices. We're going to create jobs. We're going to lower energy
DeSantis,
costs.
can we get
We're also going to be more
made for
energy
walking? Is his
independent and
walkout?
secure. We'll choose Midland over
Wait,
Moscow. We'll choose
that
the
used to be
Marcellus
Hayes, but yeah,
over
I
the
guess we could
mullahs,
use it for
and we'll
DeSantis.
choose Bakken over Beijing.
Well, you know,
that
just
is
wears high
good
heels.
for America's national security. Biden's Green New Deal,
I see what you did there.
that's good for Venezuela, it's good for Russia, it's good for Iran, and it's good for China. So I would turn the screws on the Venezuelan regime. I think it's a corrupt, dictatorial regime, and we should never go hat in hand begging for oil from them.
Just to be clear, would you reimpose the sanctions?
Yes, absolutely.
Ambassador Haley, what would your approach be?
You know, I stood on the Simon Boulevard Bridge and watched
I
thousands
haven't
of
been drinking.
Venezuelans cross for
That's
hours
a
in the hot
violation,
sun,
ma'am.
holding
There's
their
a
babies
drinking
to get
game
the
in
one meal
effect.
they might get that day, going from Venezuela to Colombia.
I had no
They were
idea.
fleeing
I was not here for
socialism
the ground
and begging
rules.
for freedom. We need to make sure that we do everything we can to
Failure
sanction
to
Maduro.
pay
We shouldn't be
attention to
getting
the
dirty
rules
oil.
is
And
not
Biden
my
just gave
responsibility.
500,000 Venezuelans temporary priority
Dude,
status,
we
which
run
is
a
just
show
going to have
called
more of
Whatever.
them come. But on the
There are
energy
no
side, it
rules.
cracks me up that Ron continues to do this. He
There
has
are-
opposed
there are
fracking. He's
debate
opposed
nights.
drilling. Last time he said it wasn't true, and
I
everybody
did not
found
know
out
this.
that it was true. He opposed it before Florida voters even voted on it. He was praised by the Sierra Club, and you're trying to make up for it and act like you weren't a liberal when it comes to the environment. You were. You always have been. Just own it if that's the case. But don't keep saying you're something that you're not.
Let me respond to that. So our whole energy plan, you can't get the shale without fracking. We are absolutely going to frack, but I disagree with Nikki Haley. I don't think it's a good idea to drill in the Florida Everglades, and I know most Floridians agree with me.
You banned fracking.
Thank you very much. Lester?
All right, all, thank you. Let's turn to one of the biggest issues for voters. That, of course, is the economy. This is a question that will go to all of you. An Iowa voter recently told NBC News, "How am I going to make sure my pantry's stocked without breaking the bank?" You've all said the best way to deal with rising prices is to cut government spending. But that would take time to play out, and Americans are struggling right now. Senator Scott, I'll start with you. What would you do the moment you take office to help Americans manage the cost of living? So we're talking about short term here.
I'll take all that
My mother was a single mother who raised me and my brother in a very challenging economic situation. The first thing I can tell you is that when your gas prices are 40% higher right now than they were just a little over 2 years ago, that's not a problem for my mama. That was a crisis. The first thing I would do as President of the United States is I would sign the XL Keystone Pipeline and start seeing resources flow. Second thing I would do is make sure that there's certainty and predictability so that those folks who have the leases in our country would have the certainty and predictability to go ahead and become energy independent. We should focus not just on being energy independent, we should focus on being energy dominant. America is the home to more energy resources than any other country on the planet. We can reduce the price of energy, we can reduce the price of food and the price of electricity if we focus on my build here, don't borrow from China plan that is embedded the Made
I don't
in
know
America
why it took me so long to figure this out, but Tim Scott looks exactly like Mushmouth from Fat Albert if you put the hat on his head.
The
I'm
high-tech
just saying.
manufacturing.
Oh, dear God.
And the third is the energy economy.
cannot
we have
unsee
an
that now.
opportunity as Americans to actually export the surplus energy
I don't know
that
why
we
I can
create
pretty much
in our
find a
nation
cartoon that fits
and
pretty much anybody's
disconnect
face.
from
It's
China
a weird talent,
and
I
from
guess. I don't know.
murderous dictators and tyrants around the
Your
world.
time is up, but let me just follow up. The idea of pumping gas, of turning on pipelines, that doesn't make gas cheaper that day. I'm talking about you become president. What can you do specifically to help people feel better about their situation or be better with their situation?
Well, actually, it does, to be honest with you. The way that the economy works is it works on the ability to anticipate excess supply versus the demand. When that happens, confidence drives our prices down because we know there's going to be a greater surplus. When you allow for those who have leases to actually start drilling, to start using those leases for more energy excavation, you put our economy in the strongest position. And as a result of that, prices start going down. That is the kind of economy that, as President of the United States, I would lead this nation to making sure that we first use the resources in our own country and not going outside of our country in order to achieve our objective. You know, Proverbs 22:7 reminds us that the borrower is slave to the lender. We have become an indentured servant too often to countries like China. By having an energy economy, we start allowing this nation to once again return.
Senator,
so is that a racist
whistle
by
Tim
Tim Scott?
Governor DeSantis. Can you give us some, you ticked off a number of things a moment ago, but some specific examples of ways that would put people on a better economic footing right away?
So I started off working minimum wage jobs. I did $6 an hour as an electrician's assistant. I worked all kinds of things to be able to get through school. And I did that because I believed in America, if you work hard and get the most out of your God-given ability, you can get ahead. And what's happening now, many of you are working hard and you're falling further and further behind. I've met people in Iowa, New Hampshire, and all across the country who've talked about all the burdens that they're facing.
That answer,
with the
Ron,
rising
answer the
prices.
question.
And I've heard from multiple people the same story. When they go grocery shopping, what they now do is they figure out what they have to take out of the cart once it's ringing up, because it rings up so much faster and so much higher at the cash register that they can't afford the full cart of groceries anymore. We have to restore the American dream in this country. What can you do on day one? Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all the executive orders, the regulations, everything involving Bidenomics. I'm going to rip it up, and I'm going to throw it in the trash can on day one where it belongs. That is going to give the economy breathing room, and I'm also going to rein in the Federal Reserve. They have helped create, with their reckless monetary policy, what we have faced since the COVID-19 pandemic. They botched it. Congress botched it. Both parties are to blame. Fed should focus on stable prices. They are not an economic central planner for the American people.
Governor, thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy, weigh in on this. Ways that you can improve people's financial condition in the short term.
Right, and as a CEO, the economic question is core to my vision and policy prescription for this country. Increase the supply of everything. It's the law of supplies and demand. Increase the supply of energy. That brings down the cost of energy, grows the economy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Increase the supply of labor in this country. Stop using our taxpayer money to pay people more to stay at home instead of to go to work. Increase the supply of housing. People don't talk about this in the Republican Party. The land use restrictions are constricting the supply of housing. That's making housing more expensive for ordinary Americans across this country. So that's the true answer. And I think it takes a CEO in the White House who actually understands this to get this done. Because Americans at home, they know that Bidenomics is a lie. Prices are going up. Interest rates and mortgages to buy your home are going up. But wages have remained flat. That's the hard diagnosis for our economy. And this is about more than just our economy. I say this as a member of my generation. I'm 38 years old. I'm the youngest person ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. The reason my generation has lost our sense of national pride, in part, is because people in my generation feel like the American dream isn't available to them. And part of the reason why is we burdened them with four-year college degrees that did not serve their head start on the American dream. People will be more proud of a country if we're all making more money in that country. This is how we revive national pride and our identity, and it will take a CEO in the White House with zero-based budgeting, by the way, to take on the federal debt to get this job done. Let me turn to Governor
Christie on that.
Well, look, Lester, part of the entire premise of the question, and I agree with Tim on this, is absolutely energy is the key to this because it drives every one of those other prices. You know how food gets to your grocery store? It gets trucked. And those truckers have to pay for fuel and for the higher fuel prices. And when you go ahead and you tell people, we are going to unleash every bit of American energy, every bit of its potential, what happens in the futures markets? The prices go down. because those people who are believing that the Biden program will continue are the ones who are bidding this up. And let me tell you the other place that's bidding it up, in the Middle East. And so if you don't believe that making sure that Israel and that Israel situation that's going on right now is resolved and resolved quickly as President of the United States and bring stability back, that will also not permit countries like Saudi Arabia and others to be able to jack their prices as well in what they say is in response to a crisis, when it's really what it's in response to is putting more money in their pockets. When they have an American president who knows that Israel must be defended not with humanitarian pauses and not with suggestions for ceasefire, but with letting them know we will supply them with everything they need, that will also bring stability to the market. Energy is the key to bringing this down. It's what every American family needs when they turn on their lights, fill up their car, and go to the grocery store. And we need to do that first and foremost. That's the short-term answer.
Governor Christie, thank you. Ambassador Haley, let me come at this from a slightly different direction. Americans in rural communities are being especially squeezed by inflation right now. An Iowa State University study found that last year inflation cost rural households about an extra $5,000. How would you specifically help rural Americans who are suffering right now, Ambassador?
Well, I'm a product of rural America. I grew up in rural South Carolina. And I can tell you what we're seeing now in America is the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. We have to go and start beefing up the middle class. And the first thing I would do is I will eliminate the federal gas and diesel tax in this country. We'll cut taxes on the middle class. But we have to stop this spending binge that's happening by Republicans and Democrats in Congress. I will make sure, one, we claw back the $500 billion of unspent COVID dollars that are out there. Instead of 87,000 IRS agents going after middle America, we'll go after the hundreds of billions of dollars of COVID fraud that exists, one out of every $7. We'll stop the spending, we'll stop the borrowing, we'll eliminate the earmarks, and I'll veto any spending bill that doesn't go back to pre-COVID levels. That will cut trillions and allow us to be safe. We also need to be not energy independent, energy dominant. We are blessed with resources. Let's do it. But the reason no one should give you a number, Hugh, on the amount of ships in the Navy is because in a few years, our interest expense is going to be more than our defense budget. So no one can give you that number realistically without first tackling what's happening with the financial situation. It would be a false number to give you that. We have got to understand this is a crisis. It is a national security concern. If we don't deal with what's going to happen with that interest expense in a few years, we're going to look like Japan. And we can't let that happen. The strong dollar matters.
Ambassador, thank you very much. Kristen.
Americans could see their Social Security benefits drastically cut in the next decade because the program is running out of money. Former President Trump has said, quote, under no circumstances should Republicans cut entitlements. Governor Christie, first to you. You have proposed raising the retirement age for younger Americans. What would that age be specifically, and would you consider making any other reforms to Social Security?
Sure, and we have to deal with this problem. Now, look, if we raise the retirement age a few years for folks that are in their 30s and 40s, I have a son who's in the audience tonight who's 30 years old. If he can't adjust to a few-year increase in Social Security retirement age over the next 40 years, I got bigger problems with him than his Social Security payments. And the fact is, we need to be realistic about this. There are only three things that go into determining whether Social Security can be solvent or not: retirement age, eligibility for the program in general, and taxes. That's it. We are already overtaxed in this country, and we should not raise those taxes. But on eligibility also, I don't know if out there tonight, and if you're watching Warren, I don't know if Warren Buffett is collecting Social Security, but if he is, shame on you. You shouldn't be taking the money. There are a lot of programs in this country that we all pay for.
Why not,
that we don't get a direct benefit from. Food stamps is one of them. I've never, fortunately in my life, ever had me or my family on food stamps. But I'm glad it's there so that no one in this country goes to bed hungry at night if they have availability to that program. But I don't get a direct benefit. The fact is, on Social Security, remember why it was established. It was established as a safety net program to make sure that no one would grow old in this country in poverty. That's what we got to get back to. Rich people should not be collecting Social Security.
Governor, can you give me a specific age, 69, 70? What would the age be?
No, look, that's going to be a part of a negotiation with Congress, Kirsten, and hell, I'm not going to start negotiating until I get there.
All right, Ambassador Haley, let me have you weigh in on this because you said in June that you would be open to raising the retirement age. Have you determined what that age would be specifically, and what other reforms are you looking at?
So first of all, any candidate that tells you that they're not going to take on entitlements is not being serious. Social Security will go bankrupt in 10 years. Medicare will go bankrupt in 8. Right now you have
Social Security is not an entitlement. You take money out of our checks and make us put it into shit. That's not an entitlement.
What we need to do is keep our...
No, it is an entitlement. It is an
entitlement.
You are entitled to it. They're talking about the payee side, not the payor side.
Change the retirement age for them. Instead of cost of living increases,
the federal government cannot, because it is our money and we paid into it, they can't stop paying us back under the current terms until the current terms are altered. That's what that means.
And then expand Medicare Advantage plans. Seniors love that. And let's make sure we do that so that they can have more competition. That's how we'll deal with entitlement reform. And that's
I'm not arguing with that. What I'm saying is all entitlement means is it separates it from discretionary spending and things that you would do in appropriations. You can't appropriate Medicare or Social Security. It just is what it is.
Have you determined if you would touch entitlements
but they didn't in the 80s when Congress was taking money out and dropping IOUs in it.
Yeah, no, this has nothing to do with borrowing against it. It has to do with how it's treated within the budget.
Security and Medicare benefits for
That's
current
it.
seniors intact. I'll tell you how. The other candidates assume
They'd still
like
borrow
Nikki,
from it if
can't
they
be done.
could.
And on her math, she's right
Oh,
about
yeah.
it. But
Well,
her math
they
assumes
still gotta put back all
$7
the money
trillion
in the account.
of our $33 trillion national debt going to fight wars like in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. Minus that, our national debt would be $26 trillion right now. Then you go to zero-based budgeting, which I've proposed as a CEO. It's how I've run businesses. It's how many CEOs run businesses. Don't use last year's budget as the baseline. Start with zero as the baseline and then ask what's actually necessary. 75% headcount reduction. Yes, that is severe. In the number of federal employees in the Washington, D.C. bureaucracy. Shut down redundant agencies that should not exist. Deliver economic growth as a positive tailwind. I think we can get to 3, 4, maybe even 5% GDP growth if we really take the regulatory shackles off of our economy. And against that backdrop, I believe this is our last best window to be able to take care of our national debt problem through those severe measures, including sacrificing the foreign wars that many bloodthirsty members of both parties have a hunger for. That's the one secret for how we're going to be able to do this, and that requires discipline. So we can't have the first conversation we were having, sending foreign aid willy-nilly to countries whose national debt per capita is less than ours.
Thank you,
But if we
Mr.
do this
Ramaswamy.
correctly, I think this is our last window, and it'll take a CEO from the next generation to do it.
Thank you very much. Senator Scott, weigh in here. What are you looking at to keep Social Security sustainable?
The bottom line is a simple one. We have to grow our economy and cut our spending. Let me just say to my mama and to every other mama or grandfather receiving Social Security, as President of the United States, I will protect your Social Security. The fact is that we're spending today about $1.1 trillion of Social Security, about $750 billion on Medicare, about $300 billion on Medicaid, about $400 billion of veterans benefits, $1.7 trillion of annual appropriations. If we're going to actually tame this tiger, the way you do it is not by picking on seniors who have paid into a program that deserve their money.
Nobody is taking those people's money away.
You have to grow your
It's
economy.
a go
My
forward.
plan, Made in
Oh,
America
Jesus.
creates 10 million new jobs,
Well,
grows
but
our
the
economy at
problem is
5%. By doing
it
so,
needs
you have
to be-
trillions of
Democrats
dollars
and
of
everybody
economic
else
activity
telling them
and
that
billions of dollars
he's
to your
taking their
treasury.
money
Number
away.
2, you have to cut
Third
taxes.
rail,
When
right?
we cut
The
taxes
third
in
rail
2017,
politics.
I wrote the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Everybody said, well,
I'm sorry,
guess what?
there are so many
Revenue will go
freaking
down.
boomers
Well,
that don't need the
2018, after we
freaking
wrote
money. I
2017,
literally know
what happened?
people
Revenue
that
went
donate
up
their
by
Social
3%,
Security
and the
money
next
to
year,
charity
it went by another
every month
3%.
because
So
they
what we
don't
know
need it.
is that the latter
If you
part
can't
still
find your
works.
way to
To lower the
to
tax, to
modifying
higher
this in
revenue,
the future
and
for your
finally, if we're
grandkids'
going
sake,
to deal with it, we have
fuck
to
you.
take our
That's what I
annual
have to say.
appropriations back to pre-2020, pre-COVID levels of spending, which would save us about
I just
$500
want him
billion
to give me all
in
my
the
money
next
at one
budget
time.
window.
I
By
won't
doing
ask for a dime.
we deal with Social Security.
Oh no! If you let me stop putting into it today, and I could invest it myself, I would tell you I would never collect. And I'm only 15 years out, and I think I'd be better off.
I'm not that far. I'm
and
very
watch
close.
the hard work and the dedication.
Yes
you
or
and
no,
I
though,
having
Senator?
a conversation.
Yes,
the
I'm
answer is no. But listen to this though, before you go on. Thank you. The fact of the matter is that the more physical your labor, a year or 2 or 3 more is actually challenging to the physical body. You and I might have a different perspective, but for those farmers, they're working night and day.
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate it. Governor DeSantis, finally to you. Would you be open
Farmers
to
don't
raising the
retire.
retirement age, and how would you keep Social Security sustainable?
Well, look, as governor of
die
Florida,
and feed
I know a
crops.
few people on Social Security, and I know it's important. My grandmother lived till 91, and Social Security was her sole source of income. And that's true for a lot of seniors throughout this country. So what I'd say to seniors in America, promise made, promise kept. I understand what you're going through with the rising prices, and you need that Social Security check. So we'll make sure to get that done. What can you do to help shore up Social Security? One of the things that's causing problems is the inflation. We have to reduce inflation. When you have higher inflation, the seniors get a cost of living adjustment, which means the program's spending more, but it doesn't cover the increase in the actual inflation rate. We also do need to get to at least 3% growth. You're never going to be able to have issues, be able to solve the budget without that. But I would note this. Congress for decades took money from Social Security. Social Security would have more tax revenue than it put out. They would take it, and then they'd write an IOU to Social Security. Congress has a lot of dirty hands on this.
Look at Andrew
I'm going to
force
Congress to stop spending so much money.
You
know, one thing we have to do, we talk about retirement age, is just something that's changed in the last 4 or 5 years. Life expectancy in the United States
keep telling
is
them you
declining.
just mentioned that he'll get tacos and bourbon to everybody if they vote for him.
When life expectancy is declining, I don't see how you could raise it the other direction. So it's one thing to peg it on life expectancy, but we have had a significant decline in life expectancy in this country, and that's just the fact. All right, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Thank you, candidates.
I think we just found the winning campaign strategy, Andrew. Free tacos, free bourbon, and free taco pocket shorts.
Cargo shorts carry emergency.
I personally, everybody says the left has been trying to destroy the nuclear family recently.
Village, a senior living community in Waukee.
My argument is the first whack that the left took to the family was Social Security. That's when Social Security and Medicare, because that's what allowed people to start warehousing our elderly in things like nursing homes, which is absolutely abhorrent.
So remember, Grandma was not going to survive. And this way we made sure she got fed during the Depression as we were coming out of it just prior to World War II.
Except that was all kind of a lie. Most people lived with their children. We had a lot of multi-generational families, and Social Security ended that.
Well,
it would be a better society if we still had it.
So that was actually the second punch. The first punch was when you stopped teaching people how to manage their money. Because from some of the things that I've been reading into, most of America, with even the income that they have right now, could technically be millionaires if they only knew how. But nobody teaches them anymore. So I actually have a couple of book ideas in the works, and that will be one of them, because everybody else wants to charge people like $500 to watch a video, and I'm like, I can put out a book and charge like $20 and make it easier to understand, because then you can just reread it at any time. But yeah, so that's one of the things I'm actually going to be working on next year, because there are ways to use the tax code to your benefit, even if you are middle class, but nobody teaches them anymore.
Well, the other thing is credit cards.
And that's
back in the
pretty much why nobody teaches that anymore, because they're like, yeah, just get a credit card instead. It's the same thing. No, it's not, because you're... Especially now. I mean, if you looked at the interest rates now on the really crappy credit cards, so if you've got a decent line of credit, you can get 7-8% interest at this point, which doesn't sound terrible, but if you're one of those people that really just is trying to build credit for the first time, or you're trying to rebuild your credit, and you get one of those cards that is, we'll give you like a $500 credit limit just so you can start building it. It's got a 37% interest rate right now on $500.
Oh, I know.
Do you know who helped make that happen? Joe Biden. Because he changed all the bankruptcy laws when he was a senator, because his biggest donor was one of the companies being impacted by all the bankruptcy laws.
Well, pretty much anybody that's been Congress for the last 40 years has done that.
Yeah, but
Wi-Fi was just as bad.
He was being directly paid by the company that he helped lobby to change legislation for, which started impacting everything else with bankruptcy.
All right, Rick, with Joe Biden, pretty much anything that he's done for the last 50 years he's been paid for.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that fact. It's just when you start trying to show people that have voted for him that you're a liar and that's not true. I'm like, dude, this is from frickin' ABC News in 2008 before they jumped the shark completely, and you're still not wanting to listen. Whatever, dude.
Hey, Stacy. Somebody posted on Twitter, Prison Mitch, picture of Nikki Haley. Fuck them Glades.
Ouch. All right.
I think he stole that. I think he stole that from Max Nordau.
Yeah.
Republican presidential debate. Once again, here's Salem Radio's Hugh Hewitt.
Lester, when NBC News talks to voters, when I talk to voters every day,
He's like the token conservative. He gets like 2 lines out of the entire thing.
It can mean a lot of different things. It can mean 2 million people who crossed illegally last year. It can mean more than 150 arrests of people on the terror watch list. It can mean the burden on states from having migrants move into their states.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I see him, and that's all I can think is, hell, look, it's Megan Rapinoe. She decided to do something other than soccer.
Thousands of Americans' families have suffered a death to fentanyl. Young people sometimes die taking 1 pill. What can you do as Commander-in-Chief on the first day to stop fentanyl and the waterfall of it into this country?
Well, number one, we should close our southern border. For $10 billion, we could close our southern border. For an additional $5 billion, we could use the currently available military technology to surveil our southern border to stop fentanyl from crossing our border. I've already led on legislation that would sanction the Mexican cartels. If you remember the path, the precursors come from China, then they are manufactured in Mexican labs, and then the Mexican cartels bring them across our border. By sanctioning their accounts and eliminating their cash, we starve them of what they need. Number one, closing our southern border makes it nearly impossible to get in. The military-grade technology is a backup, making sure that we not only stop 70,000 deaths in the last 12 months because of fentanyl, it also allows us to deal with the human trafficking travesty that is entering in our country in the same path. If we are going to deal effectively with 100,000 overdose deaths in our country and the 70,000 that is directly linked to fentanyl, we have to deal with our ports of entry and deal with our southern border. If we do that effectively, we have started reducing the challenge from the outside, and then we have to deal with the challenge on the inside, which seems to be connected to a mental health crisis that is spreading throughout our nation.
Governor Christie, Senator Scott just mentioned ports of entry. 90% of the fentanyl that is seized in the United States is seized at ports of entry. We don't know what's coming in across the open southern border. You've been a United States attorney. You've taken on cartels. Can it really be done quickly? What would you do as president?
It can be done quickly in 2 ways, Hugh, on fentanyl. The first way is exactly as you suggest, at ports of entry. We have to beef up what our law enforcement has in terms of technology. I would invest in that as president. We need to make sure that law enforcement has every tool at its disposal to do it. Secondly, on day one, I would sign an executive order that would send the National Guard to partner with Customs and Border Patrol, both at ports of entry and at the open ports of our border. Customs and Border Patrol agents are overwhelmed. There's 200,000 encounters a month over the last 11 months. We simply do not have the man and woman power at the border to be able to deal with it. And so dealing with both law enforcement, and you're right, we have done this, we can do this, but we got to give them the tools to do it, and technology is one of the biggest tools that we don't have enough of at the ports of entry. Now, we also need to lower demand, Hugh, in this country, and the way to lower demand is to start treating people again. You know, we started to do this before COVID, and we haven't done enough of it. And for every family out there tonight who has lost a loved one to fentanyl or to any other type of opioid overdose, what you know is all you want is a chance for them to win their lives back. When I'm president of the United States, we're going to call this what it is. It is a disease, like heart disease, diabetes, or any other disease like cancer that can be treated, should be treated. We not only have to stop supply, but we have to lower demand and save lives.
Thank you, Governor. Governor DeSantis, you have talked about using United States Special Forces to attack the cartels where they manufacture the chemicals that come from China. How often? How many? What does that look like?
Well, first, I was speaking to a dad who lost a son to fentanyl overdose. Son wasn't a drug addict. He had taken some pill that happened to be laced with fentanyl, and it was a fatal overdose. And when he told me, obviously the pain of losing a child is as bad as it gets, but he said what was salt in the wounds is that these elites in D.C. don't give a damn about what's going on in this country. They don't care that we have tens of thousands of opioid deaths, that the fentanyl's pouring in. They are not taking the type of action that we need to. We're declaring it a national emergency on day one. I'm sending U.S. military to the border. I'm going to stop the invasion cold. I am going to deport people who came illegally. And I'm even going to build the border wall and have Mexico pay for it like Donald Trump promised. How are you going to do it? Yeah, Mexico's not going to fork over money. We're going to impose fees on the remittances that foreign workers send to foreign countries. We'll raise billions of dollars. I'll build the wall. But we are going to designate the cartels to be foreign terrorist organizations or something similar to that. And we're going to authorize the use of deadly force. We're going to have maritime operations to interdict precursor chemicals going into Mexico. But I'll tell you this, if someone in the drug cartels is sneaking fentanyl across the border when I'm president, that's going to be the last thing they do. We're going to shoot them stone cold dead.
Ambassador Haley. Ambassador Haley, if the United States uses special forces in Mexico without prior notice to the Mexican allies to our south, what would your colleagues at the United Nations think about that?
I don't care what my colleagues at the United Nations think. What I'll tell you is, first of all, you have to go to the source. We have lost more Americans in the Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iraq wars combined. We lost 75,000 Americans last year. Go to the source. It is the reason why we'll continue to say we will end all normal trade relations with China until they stop murdering Americans. You watch how quick that flow stops. The second thing is we'll send special operations in to take out the cartels. We need to go to where they're distributing it, where the supply centers are, and take them out. We'll put 25,000 more Border Patrol and ICE agents on the ground and let them do their job. We will defund sanctuary cities. We will go back to the Remain in Mexico policy so that everybody stays in Mexico and they never get here in the first place. And instead of catch and deport, we'll go to catch and release. Instead of catch and release, we'll go to catch and deport. That is the way we'll deal with the border. Those are the things that we have to do going forward. But I do agree with Chris. One of the first things that we have to do is really focus on mental health and addiction centers. It is something that is needed in our country terribly because we don't deal with mental health, and someone who doesn't get care for mental health falls into addiction, and we owe it to them to treat it like the cancer that it is.
Mr. Ramaswamy, special forces in Mexico shoot them stone cold dead at the border.
One thing I just want to say now, we're talking about this
50
issue
yards
is,
apart.
like Ron, I've
Shoot
actually
anybody
met many
across
parents
the
across
border
this
illegally.
country who have lost their kids to laced pharmaceuticals that have fentanyl in them. The only thing I would ask, Ron, I think you'd be on the same page with me on this.
We can sell tickets.
Let's not even call that an
Have
overdose.
rednecks, man.
That is not an overdose.
Charge them $50 an hour to
That is
man.
poisoning. If you put that fentanyl in a Big Mac, we would not call that an overdose. You'd call it what it is. It's closer to bioterrorism. And I say that because as it uniquely relates to this crisis, that does warrant more aggressive means to deal with it. So there's a new presidential election in Mexico in 2024. People may not be aware of that. It's going to be someone other than Obrador, who has been a disaster in Mexico. I think he's even mentioned me obliquely in speeches to say that somebody who would do this shouldn't get anywhere near the White House. Well, AMLO, get out of the way. There's going to be someone else in charge. I hope to build a good relationship with that next president of Mexico. We'll use our own military to seal our own southern
What
border.
a name dropper.
What we need to do is stop using our military to protect somebody else's border halfway around the world when we're short right here at home. Get serious about protecting this border. And then the other thing that hasn't been discussed is the northern border. I'm the only candidate on the stage, as far as I'm aware, who has actually visited the northern border.
That's who he is.
There was enough fentanyl that was captured just on the northern border last year to kill 3 million Americans. So we got to just skate to where the puck is going, not just where the puck is. Don't just build the wall, build both walls. Can't just complete the wall, use the military to seal the Swiss cheese for the tunnels that they're actually building underneath that wall.
Thank you,
That's
Mr.
what needs to be
Ramaswamy.
practical and actually get this job done.
Thank you. Kristen.
Thank you, Hugh. Let's talk now about last night's election results. Abortion rights supporters saw victories in Ohio and Virginia following earlier wins in states like Kansas and Kentucky. Governor DeSantis, first to you, how do you see the path forward for Republicans on this issue?
Well, I stand for a culture of life, and I understand that it's important that everyone gets a shot. I'm reminded of a story about a young mother who was struggling in Jamaica about 45 years ago. She was counseled to not have a baby because she was poor, baby wouldn't have opportunity, and she came close to have an abortion. But she decided to have the baby, born poor in Jamaica. And the reason I know that story is because that baby girl ended up emigrating to the state of Florida, becoming a lawyer and a judge, and I appointed her to the Florida Supreme Court in August of 2022. We're better off when everybody counts. We're better off when we can promote a culture of life. At the same time, I understand that some of these states are doing it a little bit different. Texas is not going to do it the same as New Hampshire. Iowa's not necessarily going to do it the same as Virginia. So you got to work from the bottom up. You got to do a better job on these referenda. I think of all the stuff that's happened to the pro-life cause, they have been caught flat-footed on these referenda, and they have been losing the referenda. A lot of the people who are voting for the referenda are Republicans who would vote for a Republican candidate. So you got to understand how to do that. But let's just be clear. The Democrats have taken a position they will not identify the point at which there should be any protection all the way up until birth. That is wrong, and we cannot stand for that.
All right, Governor DeSantis, thank you. Ambassador Haley, let me have you weigh in. Former President Trump has consistently blamed the abortion issue and how Republican candidates have talked about it for their electoral losses. How do you see the path forward?
You know, I've said it before. I think you have to be honest with the American people. This is a personal issue for every woman and every man. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband Michael was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, when you look post-Roe, a wrong was made right. They took it out of the hands of unelected justices and they put it in the hands of the people. And now we're seeing states vote. And what I'll tell you is, as much as I'm pro-life, I don't judge anyone for being pro-choice, and I don't want them to judge me for being pro-life. So when we're looking at this, there are some states that are going more on the pro-life side. I welcome that. There's some states that are going more on the pro-choice side. I wish that wasn't the case, but the people decided. But when it comes to the federal law, which is what's being debated here, be honest, it's going to take 60 Senate votes, a majority of the House, and a president to sign it. So no, we haven't had 60 Senate votes in over 100 years. We might have 45 pro-life senators. So no Republican president can ban abortions any more than a Democrat president can ban these state laws. So let's find consensus. Let's agree on how we can ban late-term abortions. Let's make sure we encourage adoptions and good quality adoptions. Let's make sure we make contraception accessible. Let's make sure that none of these state laws put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty for getting an abortion. Let's focus on how to save as many babies as we can.
Why the hell did she just say that?
And stop the judgment. We don't need to divide America over this issue anymore.
No abortion limiting law has ever done that. They only punish the doctor. What the hell is she talking about?
Senator Scott, I'd like you to weigh in. How do you see the path forward? And what do you make of what Ambassador Haley just said? Do you
Incrementalism? Really? We were doing that for 50 years and got nowhere.
100% pro-life voting record. I would certainly, as president of the
There
United
is
States,
no, you don't negotiate with the left on this issue. They are never going to say, oh, really? Okay, yeah, we were doing it wrong. That's really macabre, killing a baby, right at term. Andrew Cuomo lit up the Empire State Building when they got the opportunity to do that.
Democratic governor of
My
Virginia,
God,
talked about infanticide. We need a 15-week federal limit. 3 out of 4 Americans
That's how you
agree
lose.
with a 15-week limit.
God.
47 out of 50 countries in Europe agree with a 15-week limit. I would challenge both Nikki and Ron to join me at a 15-week limit. It is in our nation's
Why would
best
you roll
interest.
back? Why would you roll back the laws in Georgia and Texas and Florida and Iowa where governors have been reelected that are more strict than that to do a federal ban that allows 99% of abortion? My God.
From states like California, New York, and Illinois, I'd go a step further. In my parents' plan, we start by talking about funding, block granting resources to crisis pregnancy centers. We should support adoption. There are a number of ways that we can say to the expectant mother that we stand with you. We should not only be pro-life before the child is born, we should be pro-life after the child is born just as much.
Senator Scott, thank you. Ambassador Haley, your name was invoked. Would you support a 15-week federal limit?
I would support anything
Why
that
is
would
Jeff
pass
Scott
because
even
that's
still
what
there?
would save more babies and support more moms. But you have to be honest with the American people, and I appreciate that
support
Tim
plenty of moms.
keeps calling me out for this. But Tim, there
Yes,
was a bill
behind
last year.
Circle K.
Lindsey Graham sponsored it. You didn't even co-sponsor the bill. And then when you first were interviewed on this, when you ran, you wouldn't even say you were for 15 weeks. What I'm saying to the American people is, let's see what we can agree on. Let's bring people together and decide what we can agree on. I will sign anything where we can get 60 Senate votes, but don't make the American people think that you're going to push something on them when we don't even have the votes in the Senate. It's important that we're honest about that.
Let me go to Mr. Ramaswamy. Would you support a 15-week federal ban? And what is the path forward on this issue?
I just wanted to say, I mean, I think Nikki Haley did invoke being honest. And I at least want to give credit to Tim Scott. He's honest about where he stood. And I think you should be honest, not making a political calculus, but to say, if a bill is served up, would you sign it? Here's my view on this. Speaking as a man, they say men have trouble speaking on this issue. I don't think we need to be that way. It was my home state of Ohio, I'm upset about this, yesterday, that passed a constitutional amendment that now effectively codifies a right to abortion all the way up to the time of birth without parental consent. Why? It's back to that Republican culture of losing. The Republicans did not have an alternative amendment or vision on the table. I know Ohio. I was born, raised, and I lived there. It's representative of the country. If in the state of Ohio we talked about access to contraception, adoption, and also here's the missing ingredient in this movement, sexual responsibility for men. We live in an era of reliable genetic paternity tests that are 100% reliable.
Hey,
so we can say men deserve
reviewing
more
a lot
responsibility. So we can tell women
my
we're
followers,
all in this
all our
together.
feeds,
It's not
'cause
men's rights
I know a lot
versus
of us have been
women's
saying the
rights.
same thing.
It's about
that
human rights. And I come back to that case that Clarence Thomas spoke of. A pregnant woman walking down the street. She's assaulted. The unborn child dies in that assault. You find me one person in this country who says that that criminal does not deserve liability for that death. You won't find one. That says we share the same instincts on this issue, but we require, I believe, a different generation of leadership
thank you.
to actually lead us forward and unite the country on this with honesty.
Thank you, Mr. Ramaswamy. Governor Christie, as you know, federal limits are important to a lot of Republicans. Where do you stand on this issue, and what is the path forward for Republicans?
For 50 years, conservative lawyers have been arguing that the federal government should have absolutely nothing to do with this issue constitutionally because it's nowhere in the Constitution. And then Dobbs comes and we finally gain that victory, which was the creation of a constitutional right out of thin air that didn't exist. And now we have people running to say, let's short circuit the states from doing what they need to do, and let's go right to some type of federal ban at a certain number of weeks. And people on the stage have been all over the place, 20 weeks, 15 weeks, 12, 6. Look, the Frowners were really smart. And this is an issue that should be decided in each state. And I trust the people of this country, state by state, to make the call for themselves. Now, it's going to lead to a lot of divergence. In Oklahoma, you can't get an abortion unless the life of the mother is at risk. In my home state of New Jersey, it goes up to 9 months that you get an abortion. I find that morally reprehensible. But that is what the people of our state have voted for. And we should not short circuit that process until every state's people have the right to weigh in on it. But here's the bigger issue, Kirsten. The bigger issue is, and Tim began to touch on this, we're not pro-life for the whole life. To be pro-life for the whole life means that the life of a 16-year-old drug addict on the floor of the county lockup is precious, and we should get treatment for her to restore her life. The 52-year-old who's drug addicted should make sure
Why is it gotta be a chick?
Chris, you had me.
who's past that addiction
and now
on to
you
are treated well
lost me.
too. Pro-life's
Yep.
not just in the womb, Kirsten.
The
It's for
absolute
the whole
worst
life.
person you
All
know
right,
makes a
Governor,
good
thank
point.
you. Candidates, thank you. We're going to take a final break, and when we come back, we'll hear from all of you with your closing statements. This is the NBC News Republican presidential debate. We'll be back right after this.
I'm out of here, guys. I got to go wake up here in a couple hours.
Good night, Andrew.
Good night, Andrew. Thanks for hanging out with us, bro.
Hey, no problem.
Vaya con
Well, I
huevos.
was just waiting. I was just waiting for Orty. I was just waiting for Orty to show up. I knew he had a mess of dirty women behind Circle K he had to get taken care of.
I had to hose him down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bad, wasn't it?
Yeah, you know.
I don't know, thank God. Okay.
I'm sure God's work.
Just because they say his name often
Thanks, Sam.
doesn't mean it's his work. I'm just saying.
All right. Y'all be good.
Night, Andrew. Sleep well.
Not operate under these constraints.
Well, I mean, so if you can't be good, just be good at it. How's that?
Okay, there we go. Hi, guys.
Hi.
Hi, Orty.
This is
I'm
what
hating on.
really-
I'm hating on Nikki Haley.
You're hating on or hitting on?
Hating.
She's hating.
She's not Moana.
She.
You still want
Moana,
if you want
she
to
is
crush on a dark-haired lady, politician. First, if you're gonna crush on a dark-haired lady, it might as well be Aggie. But if it's
Well,
not gonna be Aggie, it should really be Tulsi.
No, it's always Tulsi.
Not Nikki. Moana.
See, I liked Nikki until she went full fucking UN on every opinion.
Well, she went full fucking UN, and then she just gave the idea that any Republican or pro-life advocate would advocate for punishing women. Like, why did you fucking say that out loud?
You know, it's like I said, Chris Christie, it's when the worst person you know makes a good point. I mean, he did the meme. And then he kept talking, and I was just, oh, shut up.
Shut up. You almost had it, son.
I can't believe you're not shutting up.
But Chris Christie, he's got to have both ways. He's got to reach out for both sides. Always.
Oh my God, I hate Nikki Haley right now.
Yeah.
Stacey, with the fires of 1,000 burning suns, how long have we fought that stereotype?
Again, way too much time at the UN. Even if she was there a week, that's too much time. Anything shorter than leveling it like it was in Gaza, I am...
Yeah, make the UN Gaza.
Yeah, make the UN Gaza again. Hey, there's a MAGA.
It's MAGA. Listen. You have posted that? You need to post that. I'll retweet it.
Stacey, did you tweet out what the Taylor Lawrence thing?
No.
Oh, you should.
I wasn't gonna steal your shit.
No, I told you to do it.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yes, I said go
I'm
ahead.
trying to think of one of those that, like, Laura Loomer's the Taylor Lorenz of. Like, there's got to be a third grifter in there, and I'm trying to figure out who the third grifter is.
Oh, hold on. There's so many. God, there's so
I
many.
know.
Jason Hinkle comes to mind. The Krasensteins, obviously.
No. I've got it.
Oh no, Joe, that something from Jers.
No, I've got it even better. Laura Loomer is the Laura Loomer
Taylor Lorenz.
Laura Loomer is the Taylor Lorenz of Brianna Wu's. Because they both transitioned except for Laura can pass.
Oh, can I tweet it?
Please run with it.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to tweet
this
it
was
right
a
now.
good collaboration. Round of applause.
Team effort.
Can I hat tip you both?
Yes, please.
Sure.
All right, hang on. Let me finish brewing my tea here so that my son can brew his immunity because he's not feeling well. And then I will go tweet it.
Am I the only one that got pissed off with Chris Christie's last thing about we must respect all human life? You know, the 54-year-old crackhead. I'm going, hello. They made the choices to get there. The baby didn't.
That's what I was saying. He had me right up to that point. And then it's
okay, saying Chris Christie had me is just ugh.
I know. Yeah.
So wrong.
Go get your fucking
so
sign.
wrong on so many levels. Is the boss here?
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, maybe.
Sorry. I didn't. I thought I had my volume.
Okay,
down.
so Taylor Lorenz, or
Laura
Loomer is the Taylor Lorenz of Brianna Woo's.
There we go.
All right. So apparently,
is it Brianna Woo's or is it I'm trying to think. No. Who is the swimmer? Because everybody knows who that is. Leah Thomas.
But go with Brianna Wu.
I do not just want to win the battle against Joe Biden. I want us together to win the war. The war for our Christian conservative values that changed my life.
Senator Scott, thank you. Governor Christie, you have.
That's why I'm asking you for your vote.
Thank you for hosting tonight. Listen, it's a gift to be an American. And I'm running for president of the United States because I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing the division.
Because you're tired? No, you're running for the president of the United States because you're a glory hound.
They're exhausted from the petty personal politics.
I ain't no ways tired.
Over the last number of years. I'm running for president to be a president
I carry
of
hot sauce in my purse.
to do the big things. To make sure that America's role in the world stays number one.
He just said the big
things.
That
we stand up for our friends and allies around the world, and we stand up for what we believe in right here at home. And it's not to eliminate our differences.
I had it set up.
Our differences has always been our strength as a country, not our weakness.
I'll get it.
But you can't truly say you love America unless you're ready to open up your heart to every American. I'm going to open up my heart to every American as president, and I will make sure that I return honesty, integrity to the Oval Office. We deserve and should accept nothing less.
Governor, thank you very much. Let's go to Mr. Ramaswamy now. Your 1 minute.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
We've talked a lot about foreign wars tonight, but we're in the middle of a war right here at home. It's a war not between black and white or Democrat and Republican. It's between those of us who believe in our founding ideals and love this country and a fringe minority who hates the United States of America. And I think it's going to take a commander-in-chief to lead us to victory in that war, who first of all knows that we're in a war, second of all can't be captured by the special interests along the way, but third is from the next generation, somebody with fresh legs to lead us to victory. I'll shut down the deep state.
The next leadership generation is actually Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, sweetie. You're the one after that.
Pride in this country. I also want to close with one message to the Democrat Party. End this farce that Joe Biden is going to be your nominee. We know he's not even the president of the United States. He's a puppet for the managerial class. So have the guts to step up and be honest about who you're actually going to put up so we can have an honest debate. Biden should step aside, end his candidacy now, so we can see whether it's Newsom or Michelle Obama or whoever else.
All right,
just tell us the truth so we can have an honest debate.
Ambassador Haley, you have 1 minute for your closing.
Thank you. The world is on fire. We have a war in Europe. We've got a war in the Middle East. We've got China on the march. It is very important that we know how to defend our freedoms and how to defeat terrorism and socialism. We have to know the difference between good and evil. We have to know the difference between right and wrong. We need to know that a strong America doesn't start wars. A strong America prevents wars. And the way we can focus on that is to make sure we go back to the soul of America and be strong and proud again. And we can't.
Oh my God, that was Joe Biden's line, fighting for the soul of America. What is she doing?
Politicians from the 20th century. We have to move forward. And we can do this. I know we can do this. So join our movement. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and we will once again show what America that's strong and proud looks like. God bless.
Ambassador, thank you. Governor DeSantis, your closing. You have 1 minute.
We must reverse our country's decline, and that is going to require leadership. I will take the hits, I will take the arrows, I will take the barbs, because it's not about me, it's about you. It's not about the past, it's about your future. We are going to fight for you. I am going to win for you and your family, and I'm going to lead this country's revival. As a veteran of the Iraq War and in the Navy, I will always put service above self as president. As the father of 3 young kids, I'm going to ensure that this country is left to the next generation in better shape than we found it. And as the governor of Florida, I delivered on all my promises, and you can trust me to deliver for you as the President of the United States. I am asking for your vote. I'll be a nominee that will be able to win the election. I will be a leader you can be proud of, and as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you.
Governor DeSantis, thank you.
But will he give you up?
Why can't we have nice things?
That is going to conclude our debate. The next line says, if the audience...
I couldn't remember the next line, or I was going to keep it going.
For just a few more seconds, I'll ask you to just hold the applause. On behalf of my fellow moderators, I want to thank the candidates for their time and for this spirited debate. Really good, deep conversation, and we appreciate you all being here. Thank you as well to our wonderful host here at the Age.
It was way better than the first one with Fox. I mean, I like the way Mom and son were fighting.
News. Good night, everyone. From Miami.
There was a little of that, but not nearly as much as there had been.
Yep, that's true.
So it hurts me to do so. I think this is the best one I've seen yet.
Yeah, the one on Fox was an absolute shit show.
Oh, it was a total shit show.
But my question is, did they ever get...
It even made me mad at Dana Perino, who I like.
Okay, who's got the bong?
Rick.
No, that's not me.
I was going to say, who's channeling Mickey Blowtorch here?
I was going to say, I have been using a bong sound effect all night, but some of those have been coming through, and it's not me, so I don't know who's doing it.
Okay. All right, because it ain't me. Aggie?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm making tea.
Oh,
is that what it is?
Tea.
I thought it was making tea.
Air quotes with the word tea.
Yeah.
It is actually lemon lavender tea.
So my question is, when did Ron finally get a question? Because I was listening in the truck while I was driving home, and holy shit! I mean, they asked him.
He got several. Everything he answered, he did really well. That's my president.
Because I mean, when I was listening, it's like, okay, Tim Scott, who, why are you even still there? Got 2 questions, and when he was addressed directly by Vivek GPT, they said, you know what, we're just going to go to commercial.
Vivek GPT. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on Bollywood Beavis.
I like that. Yeah.
Nobody knows who started it. I vote for Schlichter, but I'm not sure.
The last debate we were going race Banyan and Sanji.
Ah, okay.
No.
Which again, why is Penn still even fucking there?
I have been saying Bollywood.
It was nice that Pence wasn't there.
What was that, Rick?
I said I've been saying Bollywood Beavis since the end of the first debate because it was JD actually quote tweeted my meme and said that I made, and then and then I was like, I'm stealing that, and he's like, go ahead because I stole it from somebody else, but I don't remember who. But yeah, all in all, I have to say I was disappointed with almost everybody on the stage tonight.
They're all disappointments. They need to go home and reflect on what they have done.
Or have not done.
Oh, my Nikki Haley hate is real.
It's visceral.
It's visceral.
I don't know. Going back to if you're gonna crush on brown-haired politicians, embrace the power of and. I can crush on both of them. Just saying. I mean, I agree with if I was going to crush on anybody, it would be Aggie, but she's married, so can't really do that.
Yeah.
Her husband might have issues with that, so.
Wee bit.
God, that's brilliant. Sarah just came up with the most brilliant. Backup dental floss is celery's only redeeming purpose. Sorry.
That's actually pretty good.
Yeah. I'm actually going to. Yeah. Good job, Sarah.
Celery is the cactus of acceptable vegetables. That's about all I have for it.
It's a great delivery system for Cheese Whiz and cream cheese.
And peanut butter. Peanut butter, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Remember doing the little ants on a log?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The only good recipe that ever came out of Better Homes and Gardens that involved raisins. What?
What? Raisins?
I like raisins.
You did what to who for how many jelly donuts? I'm just asking.
Jelly donut. Oh, no, I'm not going to eat another donut. I already had a donut. And I blame Chris Christie completely for that donut. Fat bastard.
Why are you blaming him? He didn't do it.
I don't care. I'll blame him till I die.
He didn't twist your arm to go get a donut, but I'm mad that you didn't share. Just saying.
Well, that was... there was absolutely... Well, I don't know. I think DeSantis was clearly ahead of everybody else. That may be my bias speaking, but he was more lucid, more clear in his delivery of his,
And he didn't get down. He didn't start mud wrestling with Vivek either.
No, he did not.
I wanted more from all. Okay. So when did all of a sudden the GOP narrative of pro-life means taking care of grown-ups too? That's actually always been the left's attack on,
Yeah, once they're born,
they
don't care about the kids. That's always what you hear the left saying.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd support WIC and fucking blah, 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 fuck off.
Oh, yeah, I had somebody on my TL earlier talk about how, everybody talks about saving the life of the child, but then half the children you save are subject to abuse or worse. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I lived through abuse. I would much rather be alive, thanks.
Yeah.
They didn't say much.
I don't know. Just cutting my spinal column it doesn't seem fun.
I can't with these people because and this is where we're losing the argument everywhere, and it's so much further along in the UK that's why we're in Canada that's why we're starting to see legit death panels. It's not about the ability to have a life, it's the ability of your quality of life, and unfortunately that means that people like me that at one point were a major drain on resources would have been terminated instead of having medical care.
Oh, you're talking about maids up at... Yeah.
It's just... I can't with this because don't talk to me about quality of life. The quality of life that I have in 80% of the situation is up to me. There's 20% that is basically outside of my control, unless I'm born a vegetable. And then you know what? I don't even know what to do about that, because I don't know what I would do as a parent if I had a child that was locked in their own body, etc. Okay.
Sorry. Somebody just responded to our Laura Loomer tweet, and he called her Lumerosa.
Nice.
Sorry.
You're good.
Nice.
Anyway.
Lumerosa?
I'm sorry. I actually thought I was muted. I apologize.
You're good.
That was great.
I'm having a hard time when I see mutuals following Loomer. It's like, okay, I want to kick their follow, but on the other hand, I don't know if they're just following her ironically.
I mean,
I blocked her because she enrages me so much that I would respond to her, and I'm like, she's making bank off this. I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to enrich people I hate. I blocked that Jers girl. What's her name?
Oh, well, she blocked me first, so I'm okay on that.
Yeah, no, she never blocked me. I'm sure she muted me. I blocked her. I blocked Brooklyn Dad, Laura Loomer, And I'm about to block Alex Bershowitz, too. I mean, what a little, like...
Yeah, he's starting to... But Loomer is just... she's the reigning queen of retardia. So I just...
The reigning queen of retardia.
Wait, do you have to?
Oh God!
Do you have to enter that place through the glue cupboard? Just asking.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do. Yeah.
Kind of like Narnia with the closet.
Yes. Yes, and
it's,
or you have to take a long journey through Retardistan.
Okay. Is your tea done?
It's people like them that make it impossible for people like me to stop using the word retard.
You know, it's a shame because it is a medical term, but
not the way I'm using it.
It didn't the first
Technically, it applies.
Technically,
if we're gonna be actually.
Well, actually, no, just like, oh man,
I just like. I think I have to put this all on the line, dude. Like, Trump's first election almost broke me. And I had to wake up the next morning because I lived in New York. I've known who this guy was since I don't ever remember not knowing who Donald Trump was.
Oh, I know. I've followed him since 1982. I can tell you almost the exact date in 1982 where I started noticing and following the stuff that he did. You know, I mean, I would read about him.
We got my grandparents were like some of the first people in the world to get cable television. I'm not even lying. And so they had that brown and tan like button box.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got HBO. And so like I literally was getting WPIX at channel 11 out of New York from the time I was like 6. So yeah, I know, but it's like I've known who this guy was my entire life. His first election almost broke me. If these people make me vote for him, and then I'm done. I may never vote again.
Oh.
I can't. There's this whole theory, and I would love to like have a viewing of this, and I don't know how we all view it together online. But maybe share a screen on Skype. But there are some old specials that Glenn Beck did about the fourth turning and the pendulum.
Yeah, that was back in the Blaze days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I still use the pendulum analogy all the time.
I know, but the pendulum analogy specifically talks about the handing over of power from generation to generation. And the generation that's in power right now has hung on to it for way too long, and it's skewing the whole thing. It's skewing the whole thing. And if you go back and watch the pendulum and the fourth turning, and you put those two pieces of information together, you start to understand why them holding on for too long is skewing the whole thing. And how they really skewed it with the 2008 financial crisis and their response to it. It's really some scary stuff, and I'm just saying, if we end up with another freaking 80-year-old in the White House, I'm done. We have younger people that are willing to step up and take responsibility, who have proven track records of delivering on promises, and if we can't have those nice things, I'm finished. I will just start prepping my life to become a prole. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you saw them in 1984, and they actually talk about them in the World Economic Forum. They know there's going to be some people in society that are not going to buy into their bullshit utopia. They're going to live outside the boundaries. I will be one of the people living outside the boundaries. I'm not doing it. Like this whole thing with the breathalyzers in your car. How about fuck no? I'm 50 years old. I've never had a DUI. How about fuck no?
Well, now they're talking about every car built after 2026 is going to have a kill switch included that can have your car shut off based on your driving history.
Correct.
So
that's
two
what
things
I'm
are going to
talking
happen.
about.
Yeah, two things are going to happen. One, people are going to find out who is making these switches and, who's got the government contract. And they're going to be watching who in the Senate and the House are going to be investing in this company. We're going to invest in the same thing, make bank, and then get out. And two, found the black market to get rid of the kill switches in every vehicle. So those are the two things that are going to happen.
So this is my recommended course of action for everyone involved in KLRN Radio. We all buy stock in this company, then we sell. We take the proceeds to buy our island, and we move.
That sounds like a plan.
I'm just saying.
Mm-hmm. There are areas in the U.S., believe it or not, that are considered unincorporated. We don't necessarily have to buy an island. We can get our hands on unincorporated land. I mean, it's actually one of the things they talk about in Yellowstone, but it actually happened. There's one, the biggest one that I know of is right outside of Houston on the way to Galveston. And it's called Dimitri's. This guy had, the way he founded the place was he had an issue with the water line. And it was out the meter, it was past the meter. So he calls Galveston County. Galveston County says, no, you're not in our county. So he called Harris. Harris said no. So he kept going back and forth. Where the hell am I? Where are my taxes going? Then they figured out he actually owns unincorporated land. So it's all his, and he has a strip joint on it. And that's his revenue. But, I mean, it all belongs to him. He does not have to pay any taxes here in the state of Texas because it's unincorporated land. And there are areas in the U.S. that are unincorporated, and maybe we should look into that. I'm just saying.
As I furiously start Googling unincorporated land for sale.
It makes for an interesting idea. But anyway, yeah, I always thought every time we drive on 45 going to Galveston and see Dimitri's, I have to laugh because the whole thing was, and it was amazing how that developed.
Well, see, like technically, I live in what is considered unregistered area, but that just means that we're outside of city jurisdiction, but not outside of county jurisdiction, was what I was told.
Yeah, most of the incorporated areas will be between counties. That's where you'll find them. That's where this guy fell into. It was in between the county lines, and I guess the surveys got lost or something. But to this day, he doesn't know who he was paying taxes to, because the tax thing would come in, he would just pay it. And then he figured out, why am I paying taxes to a county that doesn't recognize me? And he stopped paying the taxes. So then both Harris County and Galveston County came after him and he said, no, you both said I didn't belong to you. And they got mad. It was such a telenovela.
Vindication.
Yeah, I think we should look into it. I'm sure there are areas in Montana. And, I wouldn't mind braving the cold for that.
Just camp out on the U.S.-Canada border.
Yeah.
We could throw stones at Andrew.
Just not in Washington, because they're dropping grizzly bears there now.
What?
Oh, you didn't hear?
Grizzly bear droppings? What are we doing?
Fish and Game. Fish and Game is trying to force grizzly bears back into a port of northern Washington, and all the residents are like, what the fuck? Do you think grizzly bears just stay on your Park Service land and don't go wandering into towns? They're grizzly bears.
They go where they want to. I don't.
It's an apex predator.
Yes.
It's a land shark. The
And
real one, not the bear.
Yeah, not the weird sci-fi one, an actual land shark. Just saying.
Oh, I gotta go watch this.
What do you gotta go watch?
I gotta go watch Douglas Murray smoke Piers Morgan.
That sounds like a bad porn.
Extremely.
No, I'm saying he's smoking his arguments on the Israeli-Gaza situation, and I watched Douglas Murray talk to the guys on trigonometry, and I'm like, yeah, like he is so upset with the British government and what's going on in London. Like, I wish we had at least 3 people who would speak out like that about what we just saw in America.
It would be nice.
Oh, but he wrote the book, The Strange Death of Europe, right? Mm-hmm. So he's been watching this unfold for the last 10 years. And, I'm like, well, I just blame Angela Merkel, but I blame her for everything. So.
As well, you probably
don't get me started on that bitch.
Well, I mean, she, because of Germany's history of being, bigots and anti-Semitic pieces of crap, to, try to prove they're not really bigoted and they're super open-minded, she's like, well, let's take in everybody. And then when they take in everybody, it turns Germany back into an anti-Semitic piece of crap. I mean, the full circle there is kind of ironic.
Fun time.
Did we disconnect?
Nope.
Sorry. I went to international, and tonight's supposed to be about domestic, and I get that, but... So...
Debate's over.
Can we go to the Truly Macabre?
What happened? Wait, what?
No, can we go to something Truly Macabre?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, sure, yeah.
I was going to say, I know Orty's in for it. Over on the first major terrorist attack in the United States.
You mean since 9/11?
I was going to say, wouldn't this technically be the second one?
Well, since 9/11. Yes. That we can blame on Joe Biden's open border policy.
It'll be before the election.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but I still think...
And then Iran's fingerprints are going to be all over it, and it'll be before the election, and it'll be used as a way to, hey, look how tough I was on this, re-elect me. Or you caused it.
Or even worse, because remember how much they tried to push the idea that Trump was going to start World War III and then suspend elections? Remember how much? They like to project?
This would be a way to establish martial law. I mean, that's exactly what's his name over in Ukraine did. Just we're losing. We can't have elections right now. We need to suspend elections and have martial law.
We're in a war.
I mean, remember how much they like to project.
If we were to get hit a couple of months before the elections, there would be no elections. This would be like a gift.
I don't put this past any of them anymore. I don't.
I just don't think it's going to take that long. And I don't think these guys like Joe Biden. I don't think they necessarily care if he's reelected. I think they've used him as their patsy for the last 4 years. And so much of what they were intending to do has come together that they kind of feel like they're unstoppable.
I think you have a point where Biden is concerned. So they may not strike before the election. They may wait until after the election to see who.
Oh, no. I don't think they're going to wait that long. My over under is something like January 15th. I actually think with all of the major events in major cities over the holidays that it could get really ugly really fast. I mean, you're talking the ball dropping in New York City. You're talking the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. I mean,
any large congregation,
huge Christmas celebrations, any large synagogue with a Hanukkah celebration. Like, they struck Israel during a religious holiday. Why would we think they wouldn't strike us during religious holidays? I mean, we have a whole season.
I wish I could say
Yes,
you were
that's
wrong,
true.
but I don't think you are.
I think the whole point is to inject terror. And I mean, why do you think those riots happened outside the White House? That is the second time in 5 years we have had the White House fence breached and injured Secret Service officers and Park Service officers, and there have been almost no arrests. What the fuck is going on? Like, and why is America not screaming at the desecration of our capital?
Oh, that was a passionate protest.
It was not a passionate protest.
No, that's what they're calling it. We know what it is. That's
we
what
know
the
what
media
it is.
calls it.
What do you think would have actually happened if they had gotten over the fence? The White House would have burned.
My question is, why were they targeting the White House? He wasn't even there.
Probably because he wasn't even there.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, it was obvious. It was all for show because he's never there. I mean, yeah.
He leaves every weekend.
He's never there. But what did he come out? What did he come out and immediately do after that happened? I think we need a humanitarian pause. What the fuck are you even talking about, Dementia Boy? Like, a humanitarian pause? A humanitarian pause so Hamas cannot allow more people to move, so Israel's going to warn more people to get the fuck out, and Hamas is just going to use them as body shields again. See, you're rewarding people. See, there's a whole thing called the Geneva Convention, which was supposed to discourage this kind of behavior. If you want to be a legitimate nation, you're not allowed to hide your military among the civilians. You're not allowed to engage in battle in civilian areas. That's not how any of this is supposed to work. But for some reason, we legitimize Hamas's tactics by saying Israel can't respond to them because they're doing exactly what the Geneva Convention disallows. So you're actually incentivizing countries to do these kinds of things and harm their populations as a mechanism of defense of military. And that's outrageous to me. Like, we all know this is happening. It's on Saudi TV. They're like saying it out loud. Oh, here's Hamas's base under this hospital. The IDF should go clear the hospital and blow the fucking thing up. Everybody get out. And then build a new fucking hospital. I don't care. Everybody get out and then blow the fucking thing up.
Or don't. Whatever.
Or don't be. Yeah, but then you're going to end up taking people to the hospital over in Israel. It's just not going to go well.
Even if they evacuate everybody out of the hospital, they're still going to say it was packed with, yeah. And then everybody will get up and, before the picture's done being taken. And so I've run out of patience with Gaza. Just glass it.
Oh, well, it's just like Rashida Tlaib and her crocodile tears. My God, this woman wouldn't last 5 minutes in Gaza. And she puts up a picture of her grandma in a freaking burqa, and all you can see is her eyes. It's like, go hang out with your grandma. You'd be over there getting pegged every day at home, bearing and raising children, and wearing one of those. Go do that. Go do that, you second-generation, spineless little effing bitch. You are a typical second-generation immigrant who knows nothing of the day-to-day reality of the place you're talking about and wants to like pretend you're some kind of expert, yet has no intention of living the way those people live. They'd wipe that bright red lipstick right the fuck off your face, Rashida. Like, what are you even talking about? Everybody's like, deport her. You can't deport her. She was born here. She's second generation, and she's very typical of it. They have no mission in life.
Well, you can try.
Well, you could, but I don't think it would work.
You can't technically.
But I mean, it's just it's like you're a second generation whiner. Like, I don't believe she's ever even been there.
It's not technically deportation if they're a citizen. It's called expatriation, so we can still throw her ass out. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think she's ever been there. This is all stuff she's been taught and heard about and everything. Like, she has no personal experience with life in Gaza.
No, and she should have some.
She talks about her grandmother and the fig orchard. No, bitch. When Israel left, they burned all the greenhouses. There's no orchards there anymore. And there's no greenhouses there anymore. So stop being stupid. Your grandma doesn't have a fig orchard. My God. You want tell me you've never been there without telling me you've never been there.
That was a big tell.
Mm-hmm. Israel literally removed 8,000 Jews from the Gaza Strip, made them surrender all their property to include a bunch of greenhouses. The standard of living of everyone in Gaza was increasing while the Israelis were there. They left, they burned everything down, and now it's shit. And that's somehow Israel's fault. Okay. All right.
This is why no other Arab country wants Palestinians in it.
No,
I know.
Anyway, I got to go to bed, guys. I am just absolutely wiped out. Thanks for having me. Sorry I showed up late.
That's okay. We're used to it.
I was going to say, technically, you showed up 20 minutes before your scheduled start time, sir, so you're good. You're ducking out almost 20 minutes before the end of your scheduled start time.
Actually, I have to go, too. I have to take the dog out and get stuff done.
Yeah, I was about to start wrapping up anyway, because I have to be up at 4 a.m. to start prepping the morning show, so... We're about done. Because I've been doing other housekeeping while you guys have been talking. Digitalbeacon.us has officially been purchased, so the news site is going to be working soon.
Oh, I was hoping for Diogenes, but okay. Fine.
Well, I started thinking about it. I was like, nobody's even. I'm gonna have to say that all the time on the radio, and I'm gonna fuck it up every single day.
It's a Greek tragedy. Who wants that?
Well, not only that, so
everything is a Greek tragedy if you think about it long enough, Orty.
All right, if I do end up writing an opinion column, I'm just going to call it Diogenes Corner.
Go ahead.
So there you go.
I was going to say, you have full rights to use that name. It's just, the more I thought about it, I was like, it's going to be really hard for me to say KLRN Radio News powered by Diogenes whatever.
Beacon is good.
Can I do a column called whatever?
Yeah, actually, that's what.
I really got to go. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
So yes, full disclosure: anybody with writing experience or that even wants to start building chops up that is already affiliated with KLRN Radio or would like to be, will be eligible for submissions. Because after the whole news story today, when I found out like every major news organization worldwide was buying photos from terrorists that were pretending to be journalism, that was what made me pull the pin. I have been talking about trying to do a legitimate news site for years, and I keep talking myself out of it. I'm not talking myself out of it. But I also don't want it directly affiliated with KLRN Radio, because I was telling Aggie this earlier. I don't like the fact that the Blaze is both opinion and news, because the line gets too blurry. I want to keep mostly like news-related stuff, actual news, on there. There will be a specific section on the website that does allow for opinion pieces, but it's going to be set up kind of like an old-style newspaper. There will be sections where it's opinion and international news, national news, things like that, so people know what they're getting into, and not just, was that an opinion piece, or did you consider that fact? Anyway. May even put some artists I know to work to make some, like, political cartoon commentary stuff at some point or something. But anyway, I really do need to start wrapping things up because I have to be up super early. So, anybody got any final thoughts on the way out the door?
They all suck.
Other than these
like literally, we can't have nice things.
We can't have nice things.
Yeah, I was going to say, other than 4 of the 5 people, the reason why we can't have nice things. But anyway.
No, but the sixth one that wasn't there is why we really can't have nice things.
Well, this is true too. But I try not to bring him up because if he's not even going to bother to participate in the debates, I choose to not give him any oxygen. Because I remember a time when a certain orange-haired, accused to be dictator bastard was telling people that if people weren't willing to debate, they didn't even deserve to be nominated. So I'm just saying.
That's right. He did say that. All right. Buenas noches, everybody.
Vaya con tacos.
Vaya con tacos.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm going to bed. Bye. That's really, I don't know why that's so loud. It's like way down. Anyway, we're getting out of here.